Morning and welcome to a committee of the whole of the municipality of the county of Annapolis. You will recall at the beginning of our last meeting, I gave you some idea of the original boundaries of Annapolis County. Those boundaries have been changed a number of times, and I just want to read a little excerpt from a document of the 3rd of May, 1828, after the Royal Surveyor had gone through the boundaries again. I'm not sure how many of you collect rocks. I know that the Deputy Warden, being a geologist, knows real rocks, knows powder, and knows that some rocks are literal and others are figurative. So here is in 1828, the new dividing line between Kings County and Annapolis County, commencing at a square post surrounded by a pile of stones standing 60 links north of the bridge over the 7-mile river on the north side of the road leading from Annapolis to Halifax through Wilmot and Aylesford. Now, there are other descriptions of other counties and more descriptions of Annapolis County and the boundaries being marked by piles of stones. So some days on your wander through the woods, if you come across a pile of stones, and imagine if we look at whatever the mountain is called over there and take away the houses and two surveyors walking down the old track that's now a road and saying, how are we going to do this? And someone says, well, let's just pile some stones here. But roll call, please, beginning with District 1.
Thank you. Bruce Prout.
District 2, Brian Pascano.
District 3, Dustin Inslow.
District 4, Clyde Barta.
District 5, Lynn Longley.
District 6, Alec Morrison.
District 7, David Hudson.
District 8, Michael Gunn.
District 9, Wendy Sheridan.
District 10, Brad Redden.
District 11, Diane LeBlanc.
Thank you. Disclosure of interest, please. Councillor Connell.
The grant application for Port George Recreational Center, I'm the chair of that.
Thank you.
So I'll be stepping in.
Approval of the order of the day. Are there any changes? Councillor Sheridan.
Could I add sewer rate? Normally the sewer rate is set in February because the bills go out in April, and I don't recall a discussion on it. It's just a little reminder. Maybe staff could just give me a quick update.
All right, we'll put them under new business.
Thank you.
I'd like a motion to adopt the order of the day as amended. Councillor LeBlanc, Councillor Longmire, discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. We now move to item 6.4, Federation of Canadian Municipalities Delegate Selection on page 36. Clerk.
So though, as it's listed as a staff report, I don't have a recommendation, but you have work to do. Right now, to choose your delegates.
So who has attended an FCM conference in the past 2 years? So you two, at the beginning, are not eligible at the beginning for this year's. How many, who would like to be considered to attend this year? 1, 2, 3. So, Councillor Gunn, was it you?
No, it was
The Deputy Warden and Councillor LeBlanc.
That was easy.
All right.
It's an easy pass.
I'd like to have a motion to that effect that Councillors Gunn, what's your name? Redden and LeBlanc be delegates to the FCN conference in May of this year in Toronto.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you.
Who is the seconder?
Councillor Bartow? All in discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Sometimes these things
We
take...
need 3 alternates now.
3 alternates?
3 alternates.
Yes, that's right. And sometimes, I remember I was an alternate one year and was called wherever I was and said, go to Winnipeg. Are there any who would like to be alternates? All right, we have no one wishing to be an alternate. So if it comes to that one of the delegates cannot come, then I will conduct bilateral discussions at the highest level to see if we can find one.
Us back into
Yes. Oh, yes. All right, Councillor Longmire, Councillor Bartow. I'd like a motion to that effect that they be alternates. Councillor Connell. Deputy Warden. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. We will now move to 6.5 on page 40.
Yes, that's me. Just one second.
Sorry, yes, I have to find my other, Councillor Prout, please.
I recommend that Municipal Council provide a letter of awareness to the Malvern Square Community Center to accompany their 2023-2024 Recreation Facility Development Grant application, noting that no funding has been requested from the municipality for their roof replacement project.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. The councillor mentioned to me this morning on our way in, this councillor said to me, do you think we can tie our laces and be out of here at a good time today? And we're well on our way.
Don't jinx it.
Next one is 6.6, joint letter concerning the causeway. And Deputy Warden, please.
I move that Municipal Council direct the Warden to sign the letter to Honorable Kim Maslin requesting assistance in the maintenance and management of the Granville Ferry Causeway in tandem with a signature from the Mayor of the town. From the Mayor of the town of Annapolis.
Thank you. Second,
Right.
Councillor Gunn. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Connell.
So, by reading this, it kind of makes out that the province hasn't kept the maintenance up in that causeway. The province has done all the maintenance on that causeway from the time it was built until we're sending a letter to say to them, we want you to do the maintenance.
No, this started from a member of TIR who indicated to us that, indicated to the county and the towns that we should look at the causeway to see that it's in good state, and if it ever became in less than good state, how we would cope. It wasn't saying that the county is, that the province has not maintained it, but rather that the province should take a look at it.
Because I know that they paved.
Oh, yes.
They paved everything from the sluice this way a year ago. And because of the way the expansion joints are made in that, you could feel them 2 days after they're paved.
And what they told us is that where they used, I don't know if the numbers are right, where they used to have to pave every 3 years, they now have to pave every 2 years. The other thing I learned is that the province owns, I think it's 3 inches down, and everything below that is owned by Councillor Ensel. Sorry, there was a comma.
I own it all.
Thank you.
Take your pocketbook out.
I just wanted to add to Mr. Connell is, so do we know if there is money in the budget for 23-24 for that?
For what?
For maintenance to the causeway?
In which?
I was just, when I was reading over it, I was a little bit confused about what our tactic is and what we're trying to really do. And that was my,
Yes, yep.
you know, because I also had some concerns about, you know, some of the wording in the letter and, you know, just if I was writing a letter, I would probably do it a little bit different and tactfully, but I don't even know what our tactic is.
And whose budget did you mean?
The transportation and infrastructure renewal.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that.
But I would-
This comes from a provincial employee who wants to be careful.
No, but I just would think that if we get to this staff report, that part of the staff report would be to look at all of the information. Like, I just don't know if we're creating confusion or public concern over something that is not even really a concern.
Well, personally, I think everything should be.
Well, it is a concern, but like if it's already being budgeted, or the Department of Transportation Infrastructure Renewal is already working constantly on it, then I'm just confused about what our tactic is, and maybe I'm reading it at a different level. I don't know.
Thank you. Councilor Gunn.
Thank you so much. The causeway, it's an interesting thing. When they built that causeway, you know, it was the Department of Agriculture that originally built that through the dike lands and one thing and another. They're the ones that built that to control the level of the water in the river. When they built that, they had always planned to put a second set of gates in, or maybe even a third set of gates at one time. And they built these big cement piers that come up so they had rooms to put gates in. Well, the only thing that's over top of those piers, what they did years ago was they said, we're going to drop a bunch of iron rock in there, armor rock. And through the years, that armor rock is all washed away. As you can see, when you go across the causeway, the bank on the far side, it's washing away. That was put in by the Department of Agriculture, as I said. Now, you know, the second part was added onto it there by Nova Scotia Power years ago when we put the tidal power in. We've shut the tidal power down, and the gates are still operating, but you see, they never did add onto those gates. The rocks have washed away, so what holds the highway there is the thickness of pavement that the good Department of Highways has put in through the years. Last year, a lot of people don't recognize it or don't even know this. There was a cone sitting there coming across the causeway, and they took that cone up and they started dumping stuff in it. Well, they filled it for a minute, and then it all fell away again. It just washed away again, so there was this big hole. And they eventually brought foam in, from what I understand, and they dumped a bunch of foam in just to sort of keep things from washing away. But what holds that highway up is the thick layer of cement, or pavement, I should say, on the Annapolis side of the thing. Now, given that scenario, which the good warden just pointed out here, that the Department of Highways literally owns, what did you say, 3 inches? 3 inches or something like that, I would query that is actually their responsibility. So when it comes to replacing what's underneath that 3 inches in years to come, I think that's going to fall into the hands of local governments and probably, if we're lucky, the province will help us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Longmire.
Yes, thanks. I'm not going to reiterate everything like Councilor Gunn has said, but after digging, I had learned much about what had been actually put in the ground there and how it was all constructed and how it has failed to uphold itself and why we have to continue to go back every 3 years to refit it. I would be curious as to how we define the causeway and how much of that stretch is to be considered in that letter. As it says in the background, you know, it's our connection to there and back, and over to Annapolis and from the side. So, it's more instrumental than, we would want to minimize, right? It's serious business. We need this. And so the cooperation of whoever is going to step up to the plate we need this letter, but it needs to probably be just adjusted a bit, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc, followed by Councillor Brethel.
Thank you. In thoughts and things that I've heard this morning so far on this topic, I think that it's a good time after we go through this first motion to make a second motion to invite the TIR representatives, the Department of Public Works, I guess it's called now, Tony Harvey, to come to our next council meeting and do a presentation where we can ask some of these questions and be more clarified on what is being done there and other things in the county. So that's what I will suggest.
That's a good idea. He's the person who initiated this whole process. Correct. Councillor Berkeley.
Just mentioned that the highway's only responsible for 3 inches, but this letter is to Public Works, so they cover more infrastructure than just the highway. And I'm just wondering what our intentions are, like if we have to put some grade beams in or do something else to stabilize that road surface, or if it's not Department of Highways, well, as long as the proper authority is brought into the loop and not just narrow vision of talking to Department of Highways. I think that, and if there's anybody else we need to add to this letter, it might be as well to include it at this time. The other thing is it's referring to in this letter Grand Ferry Causeway. Well, and very little of that is in the county. Causeway, most of it's in the town. So maybe we should clarify the wording of that letter a little more, that we're not taking responsibility for that whole causeway in the county, because most of it's not in the county. It's in the municipality of Annapolis. So maybe we need to consider our wording a little bit through the document so that we're not laying ourselves out there further than we want to be extended. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Connell, please.
A little bit of history. I helped build that. I almost ended up in the causeway on that side of the dozer because the bank gave away and the dozer was going. And I had it in reverse, full bore, and I wasn't making much ground for a long time. I thought I was going to get wet. But anyway, that was when the environment didn't bother much with waterways, because a few months later, I also put an excavator in the river along all the cottages by Kerr's, out as far as I could get, until the water splashed in my boots, and felt around blindly and picked rocks up and built little rock walkways between everybody's cottage lot up further. But also, on the serious note, is that they came out with shoreline protection. And I think that if we did invite, it's called what? Department of
Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Well, it's not now, it's called Public Works again.
Public Works.
Okay.
So that's why the letter goes to Public Works. It's not Transportation and Infrastructure
No.
no more. They had to spend some money when they changed the election to call it something different. But I would think under the Shoreline Protection Act, is that they should be looking at how we're going to protect that causeway.
Yes.
That's the thing that I would think we would want answers on, is how they protect it.
I've got a story for you, apropos of changing TIR to Public Works. My father worked on the CNR Railroad all his life, and they used to refer to it as the CNR, and every once in a while they'd refer to it as CN. So they hired a consultant. Now this was, I don't know, mid-50s, late 50s, something like that, and paid a great amount of money. And the consultant's recommendation was the rebranding of CNR as CN. And he came home with this piece of paper. in his hand, and he rented and he raided, paying all those people from Upper Canada to simply do what we've been doing all these years. Anyway, who's next?
That's right.
Deputy Warden.
I'd like to weigh in something. With respect to previous expertise on piles of rocks, I found earthen-filled dams and retaining dams for mine sites, which are vaguely akin to causeways, to be incredibly interesting structures. And from my limited knowledge of this particular type of pile of rocks, I'm very happy with sending this letter.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
At this time, Mr. Warden?
Yes, please, Councillor LeBlanc.
May I make a motion to invite our rep, Tony Harvey from the Department of Public Works to come?
Slowly.
Oh,
Slowly.
She's got it all. To our next, can it be committee of the whole or should it be council?
Committee of the whole's full.
So council? So we,
Is the general consensus to where?
Committee of the whole next one.
well, she said
Then we
committee of the whole is full.
We've
so-
got 4 presentations at April Committee of the Whole.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
Could we hold off until the new CAO is in place, possibly, so he could hear all this information as well? So maybe the following month?
Probably
April
be
or
enough.
May,
At the earliest possible moment.
earlier May, April or May. Yeah.
Sue?
Do you suggest committee of the whole in both of them? Or?
That's where you receive
Yes.
presentations, yeah.
Okay.
I need a second there, Councillor Longmire. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Warden, Animal Control, Annapolis Royal.
I move that municipal council authorize the warden and the municipal clerk to sign the renewal of the animal control agreement with the town of Annapolis Royal.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Prout. Discussion. Councillor Sheridan.
So I had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Mason prior to the meeting in regards to how often they go out to the towns to have, to do animal control. And she informed me, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, but possibly once a year for Annapolis and maybe five or six times to the town of Middleton. So I just wanted to let others know that, to me, it's not a hill to die on for the amount of money. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor.
I support what we're doing here, especially, option 4. So I just wanted to say that I support this.
Thank you.
Oh, there's,
Councillor Gunn.
I'm fine, as long as it doesn't cost our citizens money to look after other municipalities. I have an aversion to that. So as long as we're having our expenses covered, I'm for it. But I would only extend it for a 2-year period.
Thank you.
They've got a 1-year extension here.
Further discussion? Councillor Greco.
Just one small question, but it's extended to 7 years, 5 years, whatever term, but you could also, within 30 days, you can start voting with it. So it's kind of, why have the term when it can be short-tracked at 30 days? If there's no contract commitment there.
Thank you.
Good point.
Councillor LeBlanc.
I'm looking at the years in a different manner so as to say a termination in 30 days. I'm not really looking at that piece. I'm looking at the piece of what we've gone through in the last couple of years of how many changes we've gone through in pricing and everything else. And so my number would be, it's not in the motion, a 3-year term or less. I would go with 2, just so that it's reviewed. Because if it's not reviewed, we could be,
Make an amendment.
So at this point, I would make an amendment, but I'd like to know where we're sitting at this point. Because in the motion, it does not have any number of years. So do we do it there? Or,
So just, sorry, don't have
Okay, Councillor Ansel?
So just from my understanding of reading it, maybe I read it wrong, but I don't think so, that the reason that I was in support of option 4 is it's a 5-year term, but reading through the document, there is an annual review of the costings for the flexible dollar value, mostly around wages and different things. And the fact that we don't have to continue to have an agreement reviewed constantly, to have discussion constantly, when this is actually a well thought out agreement. And the 30-day clause is a common service level agreement, because both parties have to really agree to make it void. And if both parties don't agree, then you usually have a mitigation of something. So I think that the longer option, that way it causes, sustainability, and we're not wasting our time on something that's actually well thought out. Just my thought on that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
All in favor?
No.
What are we doing?
It was from you. I would offer an amendment.
Just one sec, I might be a bit confused.
Okay.
It's really neat when we have stated options, when we have a stated view. And so I guess now we need to enter into a discussion as to which option.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it says option 1 is proceed with the original request as presented for an agreement for another 5 years.
So that's your motion.
But that's not our motion. The motion is to sign the agreement with the town of Annapolis.
And the agreement says it's 5 years.
Yes.
So
Your motion is to sign the agreement that's in the package, which is for 5 years.
I think they just provided their codes that they were looking at. I think they were just doing it as a staff report, providing the codes that they thought of, and then it's always
providing the
courses of action or the options, and you always pick the last option that you put in there.
yes, but they don't. No. That's you and I.
No, but I'm just saying that I think that's what they're doing. They're providing their options, and then they provided what they actually went with, which is that letter for the 5 years. So maybe that's just information, but I don't know.
The motion as it stands is to approve the agreement that's circulated.
Which is
that says it's for 5 years. That's the motion on the table.
Sorry, somebody had. Oh, Councillor Connell, Councillor Bartow.
Don't forget about Councillor Gunn.
Never.
You're in a bad spot there.
This is some of the, watch how I say this. This is some of the concerns I have about motions at committee of the whole being made to give direction when it's a political direction. This council should be making up our own minds politically which option we go with. The motion should never be that we have a solid motion to go on, because if we do something different, then it could embarrass us as councillors going against what staff thinks should be the motion. Staff should never make a political decision. A motion should be put on the floor to deal with the agreement with the town of Annapolis Royal, and then give us options and allow us to make our political decision on what option we like, because staff does not make political decisions. Quite a few of our motions in this package is giving council a direction in the motion, and if we go against it, we're going to eat it. So So it should never, in the recommendation, should never make a decision. It should give us the options below, same as this has, and let us decide politically which one we want to go with.
Thank you. Councillor Bradshaw.
It's just related to those options again, and I guess the original motion doesn't have anything for annual reflection of cost of living, so that's why I would lean towards option 4, because it does give a 2% cost of living year. I think that's the only thing option 4 changes from the original document. Thank you.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. I would offer an amendment to change that 5-year term to a 2-year term, is what I would do. 2-year term with the 2% cost of living. The world changes a lot in a couple of years.
I'll second that.
Sorry, and where is that amendment?
That would be option 4, which is the same as
Where is the amendment to
In
be
the
put?
motion.
The recommendation?
Yeah.
where is the amendment? Where will the amendment, where's the recommendation?
On page 1 at the top.
Okay, then we'll change that recommendation. That municipal authorize the warden and municipal sign the renewal animal control agreement with the town, but for a 2-year permit, for a 2-year term. Basically, we're going to insert option 4 and change in option 4 to 2-year.
But we need your wording.
Okay. That municipal council authorized the warden and municipal clerk to sign the renewal of the animal control agreement with the town of Annapolis Royal, and I would carry that on to be Middleton as well, for a 2-year term with a 2% cost of increase each year on the administration fee.
CAO.
Thank you, Warden. I think Ms. Campbell wanted to comment and give you some advice on the timing for some details here.
That's great. What I was just going to confirm was that the intention in writing this report was exactly what Councillor Connell said. So the motion is to prompt a renewal of the agreement, and then council can choose which option should be incorporated into the agreement. The agreement was provided as a sample, so that you can see the substance of the agreement and make the decision in regards to determine any other considerations. So that amendment's exactly in line with what was intended by the way that motion was written.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now dealing with the amendment.
Yes.
Councillor Hudson, followed by Councillor Enslow.
Yes. I guess I would like to make an amendment to the amendment, and that would be to remove with a 2%, and it would read for a 5-year term with a cost of living increase each year on the administration fee.
That's changing the amendment.
Changing
That 2-year.
Or 2 years, yeah.
So it would be
Okay.
2 years?
Say it
years,
again,
yeah.
please.
Just removing the words
2%.
Yeah, 2%.
a 2%. And it would read with a cost of living.
Okay, could you,
I could read it.
and it would read a cost of living.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Gunn, read your amendment again, just for clarification.
My amendment is this, sir. That municipal council authorized the warden and municipal clerk to sign the renewal of the animal control agreement with the town of Annapolis Royal for a 2-year term with a 2% cost of living increase each year on the administration fee.
Thank you. All right, now,
Mine would be, just at the end of that, the agreement for a 2-year term with a cost of living increase each year on administration fee.
So you're removing 2%?
Yes.
All right,
Who's the seconder?
okay. Is there a seconder to that amendment, to the amendment? Councillor Connell. Discussion on the amendment to the amendment. It's pretty fine. Councillor Longmire, followed by Councillor Enzo, please.
Thank you, so I'm going to try. I just need a point of clarification. So, and I think I heard it around the room, was there somewhere here, and am I not seeing it now, that it's reviewed yearly anyway? I had heard that. So, because that'll help me make my decision. No. Okay. So it's not written in here, and that's not, okay. Thank you.
Deputy Warden?
At the risk of talking about the little plastic piece that's on the end of our shoelaces here, this is now, if we take the 6 responses that Councillor Sheridan mentioned we do a year, we're now talking about $9 per year.
Thank you. Councillor Enzo, sorry.
I'll be voting against the amendment.
No.
Isn't that-
You must
Oh,
mean the
sorry.
amendment to the amendment.
Sorry, sorry. I will be voting against the amendment to the amendment on the basis of, I don't think 2 years is a sustainable agreement.
What's the amendment to the what percentage?
It's a 2%.
No, but we've now have the amendment for 5 to 2 and then taking away the 2%. I think that it should be a 5-year agreement.
Still not.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, on the amendment to the amendment, all in favor?
Yes.
1, 2, opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. If there are 2 in favor, there are 8 opposed.
One is not in the room.
One is not here. All right, now we are voting on the amendment, which is the 2 and 2 amendment. Discussion. Councillor Prout, Councillor Connell.
My comment would be, thank you, first of all, thank you. Again, looking at the numbers that Councillor Sheridan brought forward, the numbers per year on average that this would come up. I have no problem with a 5-year term. It puts it to bed, and if for any reason it becomes onerous on either party, they have 30 days to change it. So I would like to see it stay at 5 years, and I'll vote against the amendment.
Councillor Connell.
I'm going to support the amendment because we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. But we also, I've had an issue with how we do the dog control with the towns, because it's not only the fact of charging them for our appliance people to go out, but this could be in the middle of the night, it could be on a weekend, it could be any time in 7 days, 24-hour service. And in my mind, if we're supplying 24-hour service, they should be paying part of the wages. Why do we keep staff on speed dial for the fact of $75? That's my issue is that if we said they were available from 8 to 4:30, I would agree with what the content is. But we're not. We're telling them they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you get a dog at large, you call our bylaws. That's pretty cheap. But anyway, I will be supporting the 2-year on that fact is that if it increases, it's got to come back. So I will support it.
Thank you. Councillor Ansel?
That's a good point.
I just want to echo Councillor Prout that I'll be voting against this because I do feel it should be a 5-year term. But I also agree with Councillor Connell that we never know with wages, but I'm unsure of how much they actually get paid right now to make that real decision of is $75. But I'll be voting against the motion.
Against the amendment.
The amendment, sorry.
Thank you.
Question?
Is that up?
Yes.
Councillor Ottmeyer.
Thank you. I will be voting in favor of the amendment. I do want to echo what Councillor Connell had stated about our staff. And, we're holding the extra weight of the human resource. And it is a tremendous service that we're offering, and it far exceeds the $75 and whatever. So, it goes back to that 1-year review. I don't even know if that's something that can be factored in, but, I always believe that there should be reviews because we're now, post-COVID, more animals are out on the street, more dogs, people are not able to feed them. We don't know what the changes could be in the future. I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. We've had a couple of councillors ask the question about how do we provide 24/7. I'd like to ask staff to answer.
So there is basically no overtime involved with this for a couple of reasons. The arrangement with our officers is a lieu time arrangement, so we don't pay and at an overtime rate. Also, although it is a 24-hour service, it is a call-out service, and the officers screen whether it's an emergency that they have to go out. If, for example, it was an altercation between 2 dogs, that there's no need to respond immediately, the officer does not go out that night. They undertake to do the investigation when they're back at work. So it would only be to capture a dog at large if it hasn't already been captured. It's very rare that they would go out at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's not an onerous overtime or administrative function.
Thank you. Deputy Warden, you had your hand up.
My question was answered.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan.
I just want to point out that a couple good points have been raised in regards to the amount of calls that could increase over the 5-year span. So and for that reason, I'm going to support the amendment because in 2 years we can review it and see if the calls are still what they are today. So I will be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
All those in favor of the amendment, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opposed. 1, 2, 3. The motion is carried. This agreement, I feel, is being conducted within the context of county relations with towns that are in the county. And I think that is something we will, by necessity, continue to discuss and perhaps never reach a conclusion, but it is a matter of interest.
Question on the motion is amended.
And now we will vote on the motion as amended. All in favor?
Warden, I wanted to make one comment before the
Yes, please.
final motion is made. Councillor Connell's previous comments about political decisions, they were fantastically articulated and worded, and I wanted to thank him for saying them because I've been thinking about that a great deal lately. And I could not have, was nowhere close to saying it nearly as well as he did. So with that said,
I was very happy to hear Councillor Connell's comments for many reasons, but one is he ascribed to us the very worthy title of politician. And we are politicians. I remember a number of years ago, someone ran for council and was elected and was quoted in the paper as saying, "I am not a politician." Having gone through a political campaign, having been voted on by the people, and then this person declared himself not to be that for which he was selected by the people.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. I always thought that we were elected representatives. We're not really politicians because we don't represent a political party.
But we represent the political body at large, which is the citizenry. However, I agree totally with your preface, and I shiver every time someone calls me an official. This is an official who has other officials who work for him. Boy, we get into great talks.
Back to business.
Deputy Warden.
Question.
I'm sorry, yes. We got waylaid. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed. Deputy Warden, please.
I move that municipal council authorize the warden and municipal clerk to sign the renewal of the animal control agreement with the town of Middleton.
Seconder? Councillor Longmire, and is this where we call upon you, Councillor Gunn?
I would think so.
Please.
Thank you so much. Good. Let me just carry on here.
What you said before.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for. What I said before. Ditto.
49.
And that would be to amend to a 2-year contract agreement.
With a 2%.
With a 2%, yeah.
Thank you. Discussion on that
Who
motion.
seconded it?
Sorry, I thought I had a second. Councillor LeBlanc.
Take a bit.
Councillor LeBlanc, why not?
It's whoever he says it is, because I'm not looking.
Sometimes neither am I. Councillor Prout very quickly filled the void at one time. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed, thank you.
On the motion as amended.
Here we go. Now on the amendment, we voted on the amendment, now we will vote on the motion. As amended, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. If we look on amendments, it's Band-Aids, we're really decorated today. Okay, where were we and where are we?
57.
Councillor Connell has an interest in that, and so we'll ask the Deputy Warden, please, page 57.
No, this one I have.
Oh, that's the one.
That's not where.
Fire service.
This is fire
He
services.
did on
Yes,
6.
yes, all right, I've got that marked. Go ahead.
That municipal council authorized staff to issue a request for proposals as circulated, and the municipal council authorized a project in an amount of $75,000 to be funded by the operating reserve.
Thank you. We have a seconder, Councillor Enslow. Discussion, please. Councillor Enslow.
Thank you. So, upon reviewing it, I was just reading over the example of the RFP that was developed, and I just have some questions or concerns about the RFP itself. I don't find that it's very detailed in what we're actually asking for. For someone that writes statement of works, I just, there's no real clear objective of what we want and what we want the report to look like. Do we want them to do a SWOT analysis? Are they developing COAs? Like, there's no
Sorry, you have to...
courses of action or options
Deputy Warden.
based on recommendations. I don't know, I would think that we need to really look at our request for proposal. If I were to get this, I would say it opens us up to unsatisfactory work of what we would get in return, because it just doesn't say what we want, how we want it done, and what it's supposed to look like. It's just, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments?
I think we definitely could do more work on this to define it, but it's a request for a proposal versus a tender. Tenders tend to have more specific, but I do agree with you. I think we can work more on this. We wanted to show a general list to council. We do need to work more on this before we issue it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
So if the motion is to issue an RFP as circulated, do we need to defer consideration of this?
Or if
Yeah.
Or if I may suggest, you have the option of adjusting your motion to authorize that we issue an RFP and leave it with us to do the further work. That'd be your choice as well.
How do we feel about this, Councillor Connor?
At Fire Services, they asked if they could look at our proposal before it's sent out. Because you don't ask a mechanic to mow your lawn. So why should we ask the staff to put together what Fire Services need unless Fire Services has a little bit of input into it? One of the things that I would find a waste of time, because I was here during the last review, is that my opinion, and only I'm speaking for mine, is that I would hate to see him wasting time trying to amalgamate fire departments, because I have, as a councillor, no intent to vote for that. So for them to work on something like amalgamation would be a waste of effort and time if this council doesn't want to attend that. Fire Services, knowing the situation better than myself, and I'm assuming staff too, but I may not be wrong, is that the small fire departments already realize that the fire departments are becoming more important because the small fire departments are not being able to be manned during work hours. They already know it. So they would like to have a model to incorporate that, knowing that they don't want to join a bigger fire department. They still want to be their own identity in their community. But it has to be looked at who services what areas during peak times and stuff like that. And I think Fire Services could put some good input into an RFP versus somebody just putting it out.
One path we could take would be to refer this subject to staff with the understanding that consultations with the Fire Services folks will take place.
Yes.
So would someone like, Councillor Ansel?
I just want to add that, like, within that, we also say to better define the scope.
You just lit an infinitive.
Maybe.
No.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, so the motion would be...
Sir?
Sorry, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. This whole Fire Services review, what are we actually looking for in the end? And that's what I'm not quite getting out of is, are we looking for a more economical way to run our fire departments? Is that it? Are we looking to make our fire halls more safe so that, trucks aren't idling inside, and the boys breathing, the fumes? What are we actually looking for? We know that a lot of small fire departments in our county aren't very busy. And they do, they do require funding and the rest of it, but they're not that busy. And they're late. Is this what we're looking for this person, the respondent to this RFP to look at? Is it that? Are we looking at the safety side of it? What are we looking at? What, and I'm not getting this from what we have here.
Thank you. Councillor Con?
Well, I think what we got, Dave and I both said on the fire services and along with some staff, and what I got out of it is that fire services are changing. So we haven't done a review for several years. The funding is one issue. They're realizing that maybe they don't need as many trucks. And what fire services is having an issue with right now is that they're not communicating well with each other. So they would like, if we're gonna put an RFP out, and I know that if you talk to fire services, they're probably gonna suggest that they would like to see a different model be looked at too. Not just a model that fire services runs everything. They would like to see a model that maybe the county run the top end of fire services. Because the last time we had a fire service review, we asked very nicely that if the fire chiefs could get together and start purchasing equipment that was compatible. That has never happened. So if Annapolis Royal gets to a fire and mutual aid comes in and someone needs an air bottle, they have different air bottles. And it was pointed out to us that the city of Halifax doesn't need to have an air bottle filling machine. They call a private company when a fire happens and a truck drives out with 50 bottles on it. And it doesn't matter which fire department arrives there, they all can hook up to the same bottles. When the fire's over, they give the bottles back, that company goes back and refills them. Our fire departments are starting to know that every fire department needs a filling machine, every fire department needs this, every fire department needs that. Their hoses don't even connect together with each other, but they're not talking. So they would like to see what we could come up with doing a new fire service review. And because they're concerned. They're concerned, one of the things they're concerned about, and we talked about it many times since I've sat in this council chambers, when they can go across Canada to fire services meetings, and you're greeted by, oh, you guys live in Crone Valley. It's hitting home. So when you go across Canada, and every fire department knows that our fire departments are show trucks. It's starting to hit home that do we need all the bells and whistles and the chrome
On the fire trucks.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We are now back in session, and I would ask the clerk to read a suggested motion, please.
The suggested motion is to refer the matter to staff to consult with fire services to develop a more detailed scope of work for the RFP with a report to May Committee of the Whole.
That's Councillor Connell's motion, seconded by Councillor Enslow. Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed. Councillor LeBlanc, please, page 61.
Yes. The recommendation is that municipal council approve a grant in the amount of $2,000 to Annapolis Valley Frugal Moms Society to assist with their continuing to bridge gaps food rescue program from their Community Programs Assistance Fund in accordance with the AM 1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Longmire. Discussion. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. So, I guess, looking at this, and I want to point out that I am so in favor of supporting these types of organizations. I was curious with the letter that was written here. It wasn't signed by any particular person from the organization. And I suspect that all the background checks had already been done, noting that they claim to be, of course, a society. I don't know that. And it raised questions for me around food and stability. When we're handing off grant monies, it's not necessarily our right to know how they care for that food, keeping it stable, but it's not like a food bank where we know that there's refrigeration and things like that. So there's not much information I know about the organization. So I guess, filling in the gap is really important for me with details.
Could you define the gaps?
Well, so they offer outreach and support to individuals and families for food rescue. And I'm just wondering, because it is a substantial amount of money, and when they're picking up food at different places and they're transporting foods to different places, how are they managing that to keep it stable? I just don't want to find us, there's always that concern how these organizations manage what they do. I don't know anything about the organization, and although I can go find it out if I need to, and I do know people that are involved with these groups, and I'm all in favor of it. I just want to make sure that the food stability and the way we're supporting it is adequate, right?
I would have thought there's quite a bit of information under discussion. The second paragraph describes exactly what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
And how long they were doing it, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't, the balance sheet, I couldn't read it, right? There's just, is the page 66, is this has it been typed for what was actually on 65?
65 isn't readable.
Would you like to make a motion, or would you like to amend the motion?
Well, I'll just make this point. Because I've worked with food banks, so I consider this in some way very similar. There are standards that you have to abide by, right, when you're providing those types of provisions to people. I just have some concerns, but I am in favor of supporting these groups. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
We have a staff member who deals with these and checks everybody out. And I don't know whether the CAO or Dawn.
Well, Dawn manages that group. I'd like to invite her to comment.
Nancy had scheduled vacation today, so she handed off the files, and of course she had briefed me. This is a bit of an informal organization, and so we've been obtaining more information from them over a 3-month period. They concentrate on their activities, not so much on the paperwork that might be provided to us. We had not asked them about transportation of the food, but they had assured us that they have in place refrigeration and freezer units that's stored in. They are a registered society. They have been operating for 3 years. They don't have as formal a financial statements as some other organizations that we receive grant applications from. Does that respond to the questions? I'd be pleased to answer any others if I can.
Councillor Connell, followed by Councillor Hudson, please.
Well, my concern again is the same as Councillor Longmire's. When something put in our package, please look at it to see if we can even read it. Because page 65, we can't even read it.
I think the numbers went on the back.
Thank you. Where's my list? Councillor Hudson, please.
Yes, just for my own clarification, does this group work with the food banks? No.
No, not at all.
Councillor Bartow, followed by Councillor Gunn.
I guess my concern, I'm all in favor of helping with organizations like this. They're giving a good service, but just like to look at it, they're stationed in Kentville. They talk about Canning and Wolfville areas, but there's nowhere on your request for money that they're talking about Kings County or, any other, how much of our money is supporting our county residents.
Paragraph 2.
Paragraph 2.
Grant of 64.
Paragraph 2.
Of 64. Page 64.
Yeah, that's blurred. Yeah, it says they deliver it to
Tortbrook, Middleton,
but they don't
River.
say how much of our money is supporting our county. They're also doing services in another county, is what I'm saying. So that didn't answer my question, paragraph, you did not. I just want to confirm that we feel that we're getting value for our commitments.
Thank you, Councillor Gunn and
Thank you so
Councillor
much.
LeBlanc.
Thank you so much. I believe they're mostly asking for some gas money here. They've been running around the country and picking up food and dispersing it for free, right across our county and through out our valley. That's what I look at this. They're looking for a little gas money. And I don't know if this is going to become a line item in the budget for years to come, but for this year, I'm quite happy to help them. They're only been at it a couple of years now. I was an acquaintance of a friend of mine, or acquaintance of mine up in Berwick Way was involved in one of these organizations. And outside of the food banks, they really help a lot of people, a lot of big families, these small organizations. And, the $2,000, my God, folks, we've wasted more $2,000 than enough. And I am not afraid to give these folks $2,000 of the county money because I think it'll come back tenfold. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc, please, followed by Councillor Bartow.
Thank you. I have spoken to different people. One person from the organization who contacted me after she put in the application, and she had to certainly answer all the questions and all the criteria that was needed to be able to put in the grant. So that's been done. I have spoken to other residents who have had the opportunity, and we're grateful to have these people to help them in between. I guess I'm saying the food bank is great, there's no doubt about that, but it does not cover all areas. And there's been a lot of food that would have been discarded that, because they're imperfect, just as a child, you'd be going in the garden and picking up all the imperfect ones that can be used. And that's why they're frugal mothers. So I suggest that everything's there in the paper, it's been put in front of us, that we certainly help these people out. They're doing a great job in our area. And they do cover the whole county and when they're at.
Councillor Bartow for the second time, please.
Just want to make a statement that if page 65 was inserted legibly, maybe that would answer my question.
Thank you.
We need to have full information and readable.
Well, that's...
If we can ensure that in the future.
If I might invite Ms. Campbell to comment on some of the details there.
I can provide an easy clarification on that sheet, and that is that it shows that there's $879 cash on hand. That's basically the only thing that this sheet shows. But we will be more diligent in the future to make sure it's legit.
Councillor Longmire for the second time.
Thank you. I would like to point out, in a time where we don't have a lot of persons stepping up to be volunteers, this group is fueled with tremendous people who are giving their time and efforts, going throughout different businesses, citing food fruits and resources from orchards at times to farmers markets and stores. So it's enormous, and I do know people that have benefited from the services that they provide. So I just want to applaud the volunteers.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Prout, please.
Thank you. I would concur with what's been said by Councillors Longmire, LeBlanc, and Gunn, and I'll be in support of this.
Thank you.
Question?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Where are we? 6.11, Deputy.
Excuse myself.
Councillor Connell, did you say you're the chair of that committee?
Deputy Warden, please.
I move that municipal council approve a grant in the amount of $2,400 to the Port George Regional Recreation Centre to assist with upgrades to the centre from the Community Halls and Centres Assistance Program in accordance with AM 1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Gunn. I've got a story on that. This is in Port George. A number of years ago, we had a meeting in Port George, and the topic of the meeting was, how come we don't have telephone? And I had told Elizabeth that I would be home by whatever, and I looked at my watch and I walked outside and I called Elizabeth. Oh, must be something wrong with the phone. And I called her again, and then I realized what we were doing inside affected what
That's true.
Yeah.
Discussion,
Oh, I have one thing.
please.
In the financial implications part, according to what was on the previous, on page 62, in the financial implications, that $11,913.84 is incorrect. It should
Why?
be $9,913.84.
Okay.
And then the $7,513 is correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Because I probably put them in the wrong order.
I think we switched order.
No, it goes on in the same of all of them.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Councillor Berto, would you go and escort the esteemed chair of the Port George Community?
I'll send that to you.
She had Gordie Howe elbows.
Very funny.
Adopted unanimously, Councillor Connell. And I told a story, I won't bother to repeat it. Next is item 6.12, Councillor Bartow, please.
Yes. Page
7-0.
here. I move that municipal council approve a grant in the amount of $2,400 to Granville Ferry Community Association to assist with upgrades to the center from the community halls and centers assistance program in accordance with AM-1.4.9 community grant policy.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Longmire, discussion. Councillor LeBlanc.
It will be only the same thing, financial
Right.
implications.
Yes,
The 11,000 must be removed.
thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried. Where are we? Survivors of Abuse Recovering Society, page 74. Counts. I don't have somebody for that. Deputy Warden, please.
I move that municipal council approve a grant in the amount of $5,113.84 to the Survivors of Abuse Recovering Society to assist with the cost of strategic planning, professional services from the Organizational Restructuring Employee Grants in accordance with AM 1.4 Community Grants Policy.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Enzo, please. Discussion, Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. I guess this really does go back and points out again, or points to Councillor Connell's comment about making political decisions. I didn't see a letter in here. I believe when I read that letter that it did not lay out their request. And so I assume that this decision was made by staff that we would grant $5,113.84 rather than being a decision coming from council. Because that would exceed the grant allocation per policy, does it not?
No.
Because of the corrected amount, what was suggested in this is what was left in the amount of the fund.
Right.
But because of the corrections that were just made, it should be $3,113. And it wasn't meant to be a political recommendation, it was just recommending what was left in the fund.
How much was it again?
3,000 instead of 5, etc. It's 3. A recommendation.
Sure.
Councillor Barton?
I looked at the policy, if I'm not correct, I looked at the 1.4.9, and it says generally $500 to $1,000 is given, and a maximum of $2,000. So this is going against the policy.
Councillor Paul?
And again, on what Councilor Longmire talked about, I would rather have seen the amount in the options instead of in the motion, because not that we're not deserving of any amount of money, we probably can't give them enough money to what they need and what they deserve. But for us to make a political decision after an amount is put in a motion, we wear it. If we didn't agree with it, then we're going to wear it in the community. So the dollar value should stay in the options, and then we can discuss the options of what we would like to do.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Councillor.
Where are we? Councillor Gunn, followed by the Deputy Warden.
Thank you so much. You know, I read this in great, several times over, and keep going back at it. And although the idea is a wonderful idea, I'm sure there's lots of people out there that they help and one thing and another. I would never doubt their reason for existence, right? I'm sure that they're out there. But what I'm confused about is what we are actually funding. In the way of, it seems to me, if we're talking about, they're talking about now hiring basically a CAO or administrator, and they're actually looking at that. It's really convoluted. It's not for a specific project as such. It's convoluted. My other question of this is, why are we getting, they're asking us for $10,000 some odd dollars, and Kings has given $7,200. But 90% of their service is in Kings County, 10% is in Annapolis County, is what it says. And where this started, they say that Annapolis County at one time, where was it? Here is it, Annapolis County Interagency Committee. Well, I've never heard of an interagency committee in Annapolis County, and I've never heard of this group the 7 years that I've been in this council. So what I wonder is, why all of a sudden are we getting downloaded services, downloading services onto municipalities that were funded by our provincial government and Department of Health before. So I have a bit of an issue here with that. I'm all for, they do a great job, I'm sure. And also the last part, that we only got $2,000 or $3,000 that we could give them. But anyway, I'll stop there, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Warden, please.
First off, I'm now very confused by the amount. in that, my math works out to 5113, which I just
Mine
checked.
does too.
And if somebody could confirm the amount, that would be great. And then, from my understanding, they've never asked us for funding before either.
Correct.
Is that part of the reason why they come to us for funding now? That's all.
Annapolis County, among those who follow such events, has a reputation as being very good supporters of worthwhile organizations. And not to talk about any organization, but I think some of them try us on. And the clarification of the amount of money left.
I think I am the one confused with exactly what Carolyn said, that we were in a different order and the correct amount is exactly as Nancy has in her.
Yes, I agree.
5,000.
I concur.
And the point raised with regard to proportion of work in our county, I think is a very good one. Councillor Enslow, please.
Oh, I was just, thank you, I was going to point out that this part of that policy is $20,000 for the maximum.
Because
It's under organizational restructuring and planning, right?
Right.
It shall not exceed $20,000.
1.4.
Councillor Prout.
Subsection G.
Sorry, no crosstalk. Councillor Prout, please.
I was just going to say, further to the comments raised a couple of councillors about Kings County operations, I'm reminded, I believe it was near the end of the former council, if memory serves me correctly, there's a group of dentists in Colebrook who provide low-cost or no-cost, not exactly sure which, dental work for folks in the valley, and a certain percentage of them came from Annapolis County. And I see nods from those who were here, and they had asked for a one-time thing to help them. So this group isn't the first, but anyway.
Councillor Connell.
So is this a one-time request?
At this time.
Yes.
One time this
We
year.
understand that it's a one-time request.
It's their first time to us.
Councillor LeBlanc.
So are we considering all the comments that have been made and changing the number, or are we staying on? Because that's where I'm confused here. The number is 5,113.84, but we had discussion of maybe of what was going on underneath that we should change it. I hear none. And it leaves us at 0 at the end for our grant.
Yes.
So we're flush.
I have a comment on the first paragraph of discussion. They're asking for this money for the development of a strategic plan.
Yep.
Which to me, on the face of it, means that if we give them money, they're going to give it to somebody else
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
to come up with a plan.
Yeah. Make it better.
And I'm sure that if the person responsible for this came to any one of the 11 elected representatives here, you could work out a strategic plan. And
Your policy covers that.
So, question?
okay, here we are. And we're talking 5,113.84 for a strategic plan. Deputy Warden?
So we are now near the end of March, which is the end of our fiscal year. This is the end of our budget.
Yes.
What happens at the end of the fiscal year? Does it roll over or does it go to reserves? Because most extra funds from our budget go to reserves, if I recall. It's been a year since.
And how is that question germane to what we're considering?
I don't know.
Thank you. To me, to me personally, it boils down, are we going to give money for the good works of this organization, or are we giving money as asked for them to hire somebody for a strategic plan? Councillor Conlon.
I have the same concern that Councillor Redden has, is that because I worked for the provincial government for 30 years, the end of March is scramble time to spend every cent.
Oh, yes.
There's no need of spending every cent just because it's there.
Oh, right, yes, absolutely.
It can go in reserves
Yeah.
for another day.
Yes. But I think the point here was they asked for 10.
Yes.
And at this point, this is all we have left to give them for a strategic plan.
But we hold our community halls in our communities at $2,400 per our community halls. We hold our small community halls less than that. We hold our lighthouses less than that. So I find myself, again, because of the number was put in the motion, we could pick up some criticism on it because we're having to make a political decision. My decision is that we've been in crisis for 2.5 years. Most community halls are having a struggle to even get up and get going, but we're still holding them to $2,400.
And there is no question but that this application to this particular fund could be awarded that money. But I also take your very good point, and I get going on this. We are losing rural schools. We are losing rural churches. And all we have left to protect the fabric of our society is those community halls. Councillor Long. Councillor Prout. Please.
Okay, to add to the conversation that Councillor, thank you, Buzzy, Councillor Connell, has brought up, and you brought up, and to add to the fact that it's approximately 10% of our members, that is only 10%, and Kings County is giving $7,200. I move an amendment so we can see what we can discuss about it, to change the amount to $2,400. Do I have a second?
Right here, Councillor.
Change the amount to what, sorry?
$2,400.
$2,400. And Councillor Prout seconds the motion. We will have discussion on the amendment to the motion, please. Councillor Prout.
I might, Councillor Long stole my motion first.
Sorry.
Yes, you're in trouble.
First of all, no, I think Councillor Connell makes a very good comment there, because our community halls and other groups, even though this is coming out of a different pot, as it were, and I think it is a worthwhile ask. Perhaps we can, it's a bit dubious for a study, I agree, but I would think that 2,400 might be a more of a fairer amount, in my opinion. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? And I am opposed, voted no, simply because I don't believe we should be giving money simply to draw up a plan. Because what's going to come next is, you gave us money to draw up a plan, now give us money. Anyway, motion passed.
That was the amendment.
That's the amendment.
Sorry, the amendment.
That's the amendment.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion
As amended.
Well, we can
as
vote on it now.
amended?
This amendment.
Yes.
Yes.
May I hear that?
It's to change the amount from 51,1384 to 2,400.
Okay.
I could read the whole motion, but I
Oh, that's fine.
run out of voice.
That's
You're
fine.
running out of voice, aren't you?
I would just like maybe a little bit of clarification. To me, it appears here that they're approaching us, the county of Annapolis, but I don't see anything in here that they've approached any of the other counties, particularly Kings.
Oh, it is.
7,200.
Oh, yeah, it's in here.
Second paragraph under discussion.
Yeah. They got 7,200 from Kings County.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Further discussion on the motion as amended. Councillor Ensign.
I find this a difficult one. Only because of all the conversations we've been having. The fact is only 10%. I don't want to discredit what they do, because I think the organization is 100% needed, and I fully support that organization. But it's around the ask of what it's for. If it was for supporting operations and supporting what their actual mandate is or whatever they're doing, and not just asking for money to make a plan for us to move forward on different things, I'm sure there's other provincial things or organizations they can tap into to help with that. So I'm just really I really don't know what and how to vote on this, because it seems like a lose-lose for me. And that's all I have to say.
Councillor Hallmeyer, please.
Thank you. And I do want to echo what Councillor Enslow just said. I'm 100% in favor of supporting this group. My concern would be that based on their ask for organizational restructuring and planning grants funding for a strategic plan, we could have then other groups come back to us as well for the same ask, and it almost takes them into another category. So I would be just a little bit concerned there. Again, we need these types of groups. We need these groups in all of our communities. We have survivors all around us, and I work with a very instrumental group with the sexual assault group in Tri-County. So I know how desperate we are to find these places for people to be well supported. However, it is really a tough decision, but it's really about that ask for the monies to go towards a strategic plan. It just doesn't meet where I'm quite at, so I'm in that gray area, unfortunately.
Okay, I have Councillor Long, Gunn, Bartow, and Sheridan, please. Councillor.
Thank you. I'm not going to say too much, but we all know how hard it is to get grants from the government, and we have to have our I's dotted and T's crossed and be ready. And maybe it's just a little bit of extra that they need to be able to, and they need expertise to help them with. Because this organization is needed. So on that basis, I hear what you're saying about strategic plan, but I also think that we have to try to help them in any way we can, just so that we have it there for us to use when people need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you very much. I'm a little intimidated by the name, to tell you the truth. Grant survivors of abuse recovering, sexual abuse or abuse recovering, and that I thought it was sexual abuse. It's really not. Abuse, recovering from abuse, and I'm intimidated by that, because if no matter what, if you vote no, everybody's going to say, "Oh, you're a denier. You're this. You're that." You know, we can't not give these people with a name like that some funding. You know, otherwise we're deniers that, sexual abuse has happened throughout the county. And it kind of bothers me. And what it's for, and I've made this point before, what's it for? It's to hire somebody to go do something for them, right? And I have a bit of issue with that. And I've also, to reiterate, I have the problem where Kings has given $7,200, they're looking for $10,000 per month. We get 10% of the service. So I'm really quite torn. I want to support a society that, supports survivors of abuse. I want to. But on the other hand, do I just want to set precedent and open the door for every other group that needs to do some restructuring to come to Annapolis County and say, you've helped them, so you must help us? Right? It's kind of as the rest of them, I don't know what I'm going to vote until the question's called. Thank you, I'll stop there.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan, please.
So I just want to point out that we do have a policy that says organizational restructuring and planning grants. And we have a policy that states, and I'm assuming that everything was followed and they do qualify to go under this organizational restructuring policy. We did put the policy in place. They are following policy with the grant application. I just want to, thank you.
That's an important point.
It is.
And I forget, but I don't know if this was a policy that we had before 10 years ago or not, but I remember we gave quite a sum of money to some other organization to do the same thing. I'm glad you raised that.
The exhibition?
Deputy Warden.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
From the exhibition.
The exhibition.
I'm here with what everybody's saying about back and forth. It's a hard question to do. And I think what's really solidifying it is they have a 6-page report here on why and what they're going to do with their strategic plan. And I like the last title. Here. On page 83 of our package, page 6 of 6. Requirement for success. They almost already have a strategic plan in some thoughts, but they've really laid out what they want to do for objectives. So I think I'm in favor.
These discussions are very good because I've seen people with the left hand, and I've seen people suddenly realize that the right hand is better. Did you?
I was on your list.
You were? Okay, Councillor Bartow, please.
My original comments are, like you say, left hand, my right hand, going up and down. I have a little concern about money for something that's not helping the operations and infrastructure of the organization. As Councillor Sheridan mentioned, it is a policy for other reasons as well. But
That's now been said by virtually every one of us.
yeah, but also, if they're coming up to us for that amount of money, and they've stated that they're only getting $7,200 for Kings, and we're only 10% of the organization, well, if you do a quick math on that, that's $720, if you wanted to relate it to what somebody else was willing to pay. I think we need to be looking at how much we're supporting if we're only getting 10% of their services.
Thank you.
I don't want to mention the importance of the organization, because it is important, but I think we have to consider for longer term initiatives as well what we're doing. Thank you.
Councillor Connell, please.
I can support the one-time $2,400, but never seeing this society before come apply to our county. My concerns is that, again, if we dealt with a organization within our county, we would have questions on them. how much is the town of Middleton giving? How much is the town of Annapolis Royal giving? Here, their $7,200 is coming from Kings County. But Kemple is their own identity within Kings County. Berwick is their own identity within Kings County. But we have seen nothing to say that authorities within Kings County are donating some too. And hopefully our grant person looked at that. But I would think that information like that would go back to them or our staff would take that in consideration when somebody else comes forward is that we're going to ask those questions. I understand Kings County's given $7,200 and we get 10% of their business. But Berwick and Kemple and Wolfville is within that realm of Kings County, and if are they paying anything, or they were satisfied with what Kings gave them and said, well, we're going to Annapolis County, we did the rest, but it's not that easy.
Thank you.
Should we have an amendment?
They already did 2,400.
I know that, but amendment to a one-time.
Oh,
It should be at one time.
Grants are.
All grants are one
they're
time.
one time.
One time a year.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, all in favor of the amendment, please, to 24
On the motion as amended.
on the motion.
You already agreed.
That's
You
right,
already-
yes. On the motion as amended, all in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you. Very illuminating discussion. We will take a break. Thank you. We are back from the break, and we would like to move on a particular basis 7.1 on page 120, please. Trans-County Transportation.
On 84, sorry,
No.
6.14.
He was on the next item.
That was the next item on the,
6.14, page 84.
Where we're at.
yes, if I may. Thank you.
Councilor Crowe.
I recommend that municipal council amend AM 1.4.11 Community Contributions Policy by increasing the annual allocation for Trans-County Transportation Society from $40,000 to $60,000 and listing the visitor information centers annually receiving funding 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconder, please.
Sorry.
Councilor Gunn. Discussion. Councilor Enslow, followed by Councilor Sherry.
So I just have a couple questions, and maybe I missed it when I was reading, but this is a large increase. It's the biggest increase we've given to them in recent history. And I just want to know if we even know, did the province get a request for an increase, and are they providing an increase? Is Kings County? They're just the questions I have, because it's such a large amount. Like, I can understand if they were asking for 45 or 50, but $20,000 is a large increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe.
If I may, this would equal, last year we gave 60. It was split into two parts.
Okay.
And we've given, it mentions there, before we did it in 25 from one part, 35 from another. And I know right now, I think all of us know that TCTS does provide a much-needed service to the county. It covers all of Annapolis County, whereas with Kings County, it only covers from the Kings County line to Aylesford, to the shore. So a much smaller section, and point to point is the one that goes further east. And as those of us who attended our walkthrough and discussion with their fare structure and so on last spring. When they invited us in, it was mentioned at that time they are hoping to reduce the day fares for the ridership for the simple reason that such a large number of the people who use their service, especially the medical shuttle, which is how can I put this, is having difficulty covering the cost for that one. Others, not as much, but so many of them are seniors and or low-income people. We have a high cost of fuel, rising cost of fuel, and this increase to 60,000 would be in line with what was provided last year and provide stability of funding for them. I know when you look at it, you say, holy crap, it went from 40 to 60. It was at 60 last year. And we're still coming out of the pandemic at the time in some respects. So they do a tremendous service with our whole county.
So with my question around the province increase was, I see that they have a contract with the school board to go to Lawrencetown or wherever they're going.
Yeah, that was just, the contract was just signed recently.
Yeah, so is there not a contract with Department of Community is there not a contract with the Department of Community Services or things like that to support the low income or people with special needs or things? That was just my question around that. So they went after getting a contract with the school board, but what about the other clientele that's consistently being used? Because it is a well-needed service. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. The province, there's a, let me see, I don't want to give out false information. There are monies provided from a rural transportation fund. There are grants and so on. But as with everything else, there's always a need there to go outside of other levels of government. And as you mentioned, the school board, that was just a recent one, like for if anybody needed, they used to do transportation for individuals who couldn't go on the buses or needed special transportation. But there are other funding agencies, but there is still, I guess I'd be safe to say, a proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year will show a deficit without extra funding, and may still, depending on ridership, it may still, even with the extra funding, if we choose, council's will is to provide it.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan.
I truly believe it's an awesome service. I mean, we'd be lost without it. However, I know we discussed this in the spring or wherever it was. And we decided at that time that we should revisit it every year. And I know that the policy is brought forth every year. However, once it's locked in at 60, it stays at 60. So our thoughts or the motion at that time, I believe, was to revisit it each year. And leave it at 40, revisit it each year, because most likely we're not going to deny them, but circumstances change. There could be other funding available at the time, but we are locked into that 60 at that point. So I would totally support leaving it at 40, supporting them with the 20 on top of it. They'll still get their 60. However, revisit this each year. I realize that the cost of fuel and everything was up the past few years and whatnot, but there could be other things available in grants in the future. I mean, yesterday they announced an extra $10,000 for fire departments. We don't know what's going to come through each year, so I would like to leave it at 40, definitely support them with the extra 20, and move forward that way. I'm not denying the extra 20, but I would like to see that remain at 40. Thank you.
Do you have an amendment?
Well, what was the original motion?
Page 84.
Page 8.
Okay, yes, I would amend it by leaving it at 40. And if they're looking for the additional funding, to add that in as well, if that was the request, the additional 20 for this budget year. I'm kind of confused as to what the motion reads.
So you would maintain the annual
Okay, then let's
allocation.
just, I would amend it to maintain the 40,
Period.
period.
And then
Keep
there will
it
be
simple.
another motion.
Yeah, keep it simple.
And then
Is
you'll
there a
read out-
seconder for
bring
that
another motion.
amendment? Councillor Longmire. Discussion on the amendment. CAO.
If I may to help council, Ms. Campbell just has some thoughts for you or facts.
So there has not ever been a motion to review it every year. There was discussion to review it every year. There was no motion to review it
Okay.
every year. On October 25th, 2022, it was increased from 35,000 to 40,000 provided
Yes.
in the community contributions. There was a grant given of $20,000. In order to do a grant under the grant policy this year, we would have to seek from them an application, which would come forward through the normal process.
Correct.
So
Then we'll get it.
you can't really approve 20,000 today based on an application you have not yet received.
No, but we could amend the motion today.
Yes. So it would be maintaining the annual allocation for TCTS at $40,000.
So you would want to remove that first bullet. Your amendment is to remove the first bullet.
Yeah, increasing the, to not, correct.
We can't just say we're maintaining. Or
The
it's
motion is
already-
to amend the policy. If you're not amending the policy, then you would take that up. And it would remain at the 40. That's it.
Yes, okay, I understand. Was that your motion, Councillor Sheridan?
Yes, just
Yes.
to remain at 40.
Two.
Wouldn't we just,
Okay.
So what do you have?
How would we add that other one?
I have to amend the motion by removing, increasing the annual allocation for TCTS from 40 to 60.
Thank you. That's the amendment to the motion. Discussion on the amendment.
I didn't hear what she said, so.
Okay,
To amend the motion by removing, increasing the annual allocation for TCTS from 40 to 60.
So basically, it leaves nothing.
no, it leaves the policy as it
As
is,
it
which
is,
is 40.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on the amendment. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Put them up. Councillor Crum.
Oh, there were others as well. If I understand what I heard, so it'd have to be a reapplication from another pot for the 20,000? If I could seek clarification there. I just don't want to, see, they're looking for a stable, or an understanding as to how. I just don't want to leave, I would hate to leave it, that we, well, you're still at 40. You have to go through what would facilitate the other 20? Is that possible? Sorry. Through you.
Yeah, so, sorry. If I may invite, Ms. Campbell to talk about it.
If you wish was to do what you did last year,
Yes.
it would be that they would have to put in an application under 1.4.9 community grant policy for a one-time grant for $20,000. That's why I was suggesting that's not something you could do today. We irregularly did a $20,000 grant last year without an application. We would need this time to go back to them to submit an application to the $20,000 under the grant policy for a one-time grant.
Councillor LeBlanc?
So I have two questions. One, if they do apply for the grant, does it come from 22-23 or 23-24 budget? It would be 23-24, right? Because we
We can't give money from
It
last
would
budget.
not have
Wasn't
to be.
allocated.
The end of the month's coming up, though.
Yeah.
Yes, but, okay.
But, no,
If I can further complicate matters,
Yes, well, I'm not.
I'm going to. This is also 7-day notice.
Yeah.
That will not come to March council.
Right.
It will come to April council.
Right.
Because there's not 7 days now
Right.
before the council.
Which makes sense, yes.
So,
Which is in the next fiscal year.
That's right.
which
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Which is where it should be, in the next fiscal. Because we've already given them the 20 out of the last fiscal. Correct?
Yeah.
We gave them 20 out of the 22-23 budget, we gave them 20,000.
But that's not last year, that's this year.
Well, 22 into 23, fiscal year, last fiscal year.
No, this fiscal year.
Okay, till the end of this month.
Yes.
It is last fiscal year, or this fiscal year. So they're reapplying for the new fiscal year of 23-24. Correct and saying.
Okay, now listen, let's not make this much more complicated than it is. Deputy Warden.
So, I'm afraid I'm having some complication, or maybe not.
There we go.
To the clerk's point, which I had kind of realized, but what I hadn't realized was, if this is not going to get passed until council of next month,
Right.
it doesn't affect our operating budget this year. So,
It doesn't matter.
what we're,
No, budget's not yet.
Budget's not here yet.
should we defer that until?
If I may,
Okay.
I had two things, remember?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the second thing was, being in previous years, which is what Don Campbell has indicated to us, we moved the target $5,000 to help them out. So I would suggest to amend the motion. And that was, to stay as it is what we're at. It doesn't affect the policy. But if we use the same motion that's there, increase the annual allocation for TCTS, instead of 40 to 60, could we put 40 to, oh no, that'll change the whole motion.
That'll change the whole
So
motion.
I'll have to move it again, sorry. I answered my own question.
Why don't we just deal with what we have?
Yeah.
And Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. So the funding is to help to ensure the affordability of services to all residents, particularly those with low-income brackets, right? And so are we being told that the rate at which the person riding is going to be charged is going to stay the same, or is it going to decrease?
They're hoping to be able to decrease it.
Because just as I'm looking at the 2024, the fiscal year end March 31st, 2024, with increases like the raises for the GM and dispatch admin and raises for drivers.
I'm sorry, which page?
Oh, sorry. So page 89 of 123.
Okay, sorry. I was on the earlier one.
So we are simply dealing
Sure.
now with maintaining what we've been doing in the past.
Okay. I'll ask that question another time.
Councillor Bradshaw.
It's a little bit confusing or convoluted in a way, but I'm looking at the motion, original motion, and it's the same before 4060. We're talking about maintaining the 40 now. This fiscal year, 2023, we get an extra ton. But that was out of the grants, that was a one-time, and one-time means one time. It's not one time per year, is it? And so if we're moving forward and saying we're going to do that again, well, we can't because we've already did one time. So we need to contemplate that when we're thinking about what we're doing.
Let's not try to be fortune tellers before we have the challenge in front of us. We're talking about maintaining.
Yes, and that's a reason for maintaining or not. It's some background is what I'm trying to introduce into that.
Well, if we're talking about reducing, that's a whole other, Councillor Hudson.
Yes, I guess I would be in favor of the motion to maintain it. And I guess just from my perspective, I would think that, if it were to increase, we should have the, financial information from this association or this society. I believe their year end is the same as our year end, from what I can understand here. And, I think that request like that should be based on what their financial requirements are.
Sorry, we're not talking about an increase. All we're talking about is maintaining.
I said I do support maintaining.
Good.
Right? Yeah.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
So our amendment is to maintain, right? Is that correct?
Keep it forward.
Yes. So I'm not in favor of amendment, most because this is about maintaining fare structure, or about hopefully them reducing their fare structure and things like that. And I found this organization to be very effective with the dollars that they have. And it's not a capital thing or something like that you've got some flexibility with. The fare structure is going to be something that has to be built right into their annual plan. And so I would like their funding to be, personally, my preference is that their funding be sustained in by policy so that they can plan into the future and help their customers, because planning for them is also what their customers have to plan around. And so if they can't predict their fare rate out ahead of time, for example, people doing travel for medical, if you're doing a medical commute that 1 year costs you $8 and you've got a specialist planned 3 months in advance and it costs you $20 when you get there, it's a pretty big price for some people.
Thank you.
I think I can help council on this. I'm listening to some of your comments and questions on whether or not to change the policy. I think it was part of the groups, and Councillor Pro can help me with this because he's talked to them in much more detail than staff have, but I think part of their hope was, and the reason we've presented it to council as part of the policy, is that if they know that they're getting, if that's our plan to give them that amount each year, it helps them plan to sustain their services. So that was an element of their ask, and that was why we brought it to you as part of the policy instead of a one-time. Am I interpreting them right?
I may just speak this twice. Yeah, and on page 89, it shows that, there's the projected, the draft for the fiscal year ending in a year's time without the subsidy, showing a loss of 60,000, 20 of which they would hope would come in this recommendation, and the rest they will try, they'll deal with the best they can and see. But the idea is to, as I said before, to bring down the day fare costs for folks. I mean, they go everywhere from Halifax, Bridgewater, and have specialists that are like doctors in general. You don't have as many medical practitioners. You're having specialists who now would have been at Valley Regional. Now they're in Truro or Bridgewater or Metro, and anyway, I'll leave it there. But that's the idea, that they would like to be able to put that towards, or have it there to put towards reducing day fares.
All right. On the amendment, is there anything to be said that has not been said before?
Question.
Please.
Thank you. So, Councillor Prout, so when I'm looking at those salary increases, can you give us an idea of what the increase is in those salaries, wages, and driver raises? Because, I'm hearing a different message here. If we're trying to bring the rate down, how are we doing that if we're seeing these rise? I'm just wondering.
I don't have the minutes of the meeting when that was done. But my understanding...
Excuse me,
Oh, sorry.
we are debating the amendment. All right, the amendment is,
To remove increasing the annual allocation for Trans County Transportation Society from 40,000 to 60,000. Remove that.
all those in favor of the amendment? One, two.
To leave it as
Hold
is.
on now.
To leave it as is.
We mean to leave it
In
as
favor
is.
of the amendment.
To leave it as is.
Yes,
Leave it as is.
No, that's to reduce.
At 40
at 40. to leave it
It's
as is.
currently at 40.
on policy.
The motion was to increase it from 40 to 60.
Yes.
You want to remove that, increasing it from 40 to 60. So you're removing that first bullet, which means it stays at 40.
Right.
Okay.
All those in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed to the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion passes. No, sorry.
Motion carries.
The
Amendment
amendment.
carries.
Now we need to vote on the motion as amended. All those in favor of the motion as amended? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, sorry, we're missing. All those in favor? 1. Sure. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. The motion is passed.
With the amended motion?
The motion is amended.
The motion
Yeah,
is
motion
as amended.
As amended.
Thank you.
I think some
Does that
took the
conclude
wrong
this
way.
item?
I think it does. Oh, there's the one on the one on...
We shall now continue our special committee of the whole meeting. Agenda item 6.16 on page 97. Councillor Longmire.
Did we skip
97.
We did that last time.
97.
We didn't,
I thought we finished
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
Florence.
we didn't put their request on this new year's capital budget.
There's a recommendation to go to council on Tuesday.
For
The 40 cap.
for us to pay the 51,000 and to pay the regular amount.
There's a motion for the 51.
Yes, but that's out of last year's. Their new project is the solar panels on their library that they submitted to us.
That's true.
Oh, we haven't, didn't we?
We didn't do anything with that.
That's right.
So that should be part of our talks to finish. If it isn't today, it will be next Tuesday. I'll just give you a heads
That's a
up.
bill.
What page is that?
It was
But I have a question.
Lawrencetown.
page 90.
Is that we got a staff report on what they thought, how they thought our old gas tax, new, whatever, community funding should be split between the county and the village. We had that in our report. If we're gonna go in that direction, we should have a policy written up to cover that. Because every year, and within 2 years, there may be a new council sitting here, and all of a sudden, they're gonna have 2 days of discussions again on how the gas tax works. But if we have it in a policy that if the figures are correct on the amount of residents in our county and the amount of residents in our... Yeah, in the town of the village of Lawrencetown. And there should be a policy written up so it doesn't have to go through scrutiny every time they put in a preferred project. And also, the village would be acceptable knowing they got a certain amount if they apply for a grant or apply for a project. And they know what they're gonna get.
Okay, just a sec. I thought that at our meeting on Tuesday, we had finished with this item.
No.
Well, I thought the same thing.
We didn't
we
bring the
forgot.
new request in for this year.
You made a motion and then you were at the end, then you moved on to another thing.
But we did not accept. They sent us the information on their solar project for this coming year.
Yes. Yes, and you're quite right. So no action has been taken on that request yet.
Okay. But
Yeah, there it
is
is
that
here.
in here?
37.
It's listed there. The motion that created that report asked to review both requests. Council made a decision but picked the one older item. We haven't dealt with the others, so we have to decide when are we going back to that, when would there be a vote on their, I guess, 23-24 fiscal request.
This is for this year coming.
Excuse me.
That should go to budget.
Excuse me.
Councilor LeBlanc?
So before I even attempt to what we deal with that for, the $51,000 came out what year budget?
22-23.
And the $40,000 was what? Excuse me?
Annually.
For what fiscal year is the 40?
That's given it to them every year.
That's been paid.
Not
That's been
according
paid.
to,
That's already been paid for this past 22, 23.
so both of these items came back out of our 22-23 budget? The 51 and the 40?
Yes.
And we are being asked for how much for this one in the same, for this year too, or 23-24?
24.
Okay, so.
We didn't pay the 51.
Okay,
So which item are we on, Warden?
I think we should move this to another day so that we can have more specifics, and you're talking policy and whatever, and if policy determines how much is given, then we have to move on that first before we do anything with what's proposed in front of us. I would say, before we move all this budget, this money out of our budget, out of our capital.
Council did a motion to deal with one of the items, not the other.
There's too many conversations going on.
Maybe we need a break. Take a break.
Okay, we'll take a break. We are now back in session, and I would like a motion to amend the order of the day to reflect capital request Village of Lawrencetown, please, to be included under new business.
Yes, sir. Need a motion for that?
Yes. Councilor
So
Gunn?
moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Councilor Sheridan? Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. We will now move to item 6.16 on page 97. Councilor Longmire, please.
I recommend that municipal council to amend AM-1.4.12 tax exemption and reduction policy by adding Port Royal Lighthouse Association -AAN 03390721, Carlton Road Industries Association -AAN 0112705, Bridgetown Curling Club -AAN 00475602, and removing Bridgetown Curling Club -AAN 00475602 from the partial tax exemption 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second.
Councilor Gunn, discussion. Councilor Gunn, followed by Councilor Enslow.
Thank you so much. Two questions, actually, if I may, through you, Warden, and you can find the answer. The Carlton Road Industries Association. We have a lot of properties, and I guess my question is quite simple. Is every property that Carlton Road Industry purchases in the name of that company eligible for tax exemption? And I have a second question.
Do we want, okay, why don't we just hold to them one at a time for clarity? Ms. Campbell, may I invite you to answer that?
Yes, they are eligible by virtue of the service they provide. And yes, I believe this will put them up to all of their properties being on that policy.
And I have one more follow-up. Thank you for the answer.
Are you on this one?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Connell?
They just leased their restaurant to a private citizen. That should not be tax exempt. That is privately ran, leased it for 2 years with the option to buy, and it should not be eligible. I agree with all their other properties, but that property, they have taken it and given it to the private sector.
And may I,
So you will take note of that?
I have, yes.
and sir, may I have kind of one more?
Yes, as soon as we dispense.
I would suggest, why don't we, let's get Ms. Campbell's comment on your review.
We examined it from that perspective. The revenue which Carlton Road receives from the lease of that property still is used for the purpose of helping the challenged persons as a charity. So the restaurant operates under private owner, but the proceeds that Carlton Road receives from it are still used for the intended purpose of helping mentally challenged clients. And some of the clients are employed. I think all of them.
Not anymore. Not anymore. If it's privately ran as a private business, they should not be exempt.
Interesting. And if
So
I
if
may.
I could respond further, it's totally the discretion of council whether you wish to. I am saying they would be eligible by virtue of what the proceeds from the rental of the property are used for as a charity.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Second point.
Thank you so much. The Bridgetown Curling Club, is this a private business? Private business, or are they a not-for-profit? Are they ran by the Bridgetown Group or who? Through you, sir.
Go ahead.
There's a special federal act which makes them a registered charity.
They're a registered charity. Okay. Thank you.
Further? Councillor Ball?
So getting back to the other one, any money that is paid for renting the establishment, even if it's privately run, okay, so there's two sources of income. But the ones that they get for the leasing of the property goes directly to Carlton Industries to help the individuals. So because of that reason only, that's why they could be tax exempt?
Within, there's a for-profit business using the site, but the business that owns it, that we're considering them tax exempt, they don't share in those profits.
Yeah.
Is that
See where the dilemma is.
Well, they do,
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Councillor Connell?
but they do because they charge them a lease amount. They're running it as a private industry. You mean every not-for-profit can buy several businesses and lease it out to the private sector and not be, and get exempt?
That is the problem.
The point.
Certainly something to look at.
Sorry, I don't want to revisit already tread ground, but Carlton Road Industries is a charity. As a charity, they are obligated to use any proceeds they receive for the purpose for which the charity was created.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Bartle?
The number AM 1127705, that's all encompassing for what they are, it's not specific to a property?
No, that's just the property.
It's just the property, and it's just restaurant property we're talking about?
No, not necessarily.
So if that's not included in that, then it's irrelevant. If it is included in it, then it's a specific item.
See what they're.
But I just want you to clarify what this means.
Look at the PID.
I'm not seeing the forest for the trees here.
Dawn?
Sorry, I don't know the question.
Is it the same PID?
This number that the request and recommendation is for in 01127705.
Oh, the curling club?
No, that's for the Carlton Road Industries.
Okay.
Is it specific to the property that we're discussing? It was mentioned before that anything they own is all inclusive, but if it's a specific number, is it only for property of that restaurant we're talking about, or is that number have subsection including other property?
That's a specific number for a specific property.
Okay,
The
so-
property that was questioned was the restaurant property, and this is the restaurant
It is.
property that would be added.
Okay, that was the clarification.
This is the restaurant.
Further comments? All right. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ansel.
So it's not about the Carlton Road thing, but I'm curious about what, if they weren't exempt, what is the tax or forecasted tax revenue would be?
That's a hypothetical question and doesn't relate to the exact concrete issue we're discussing.
How is it not?
Well, because it's a hypothetical question and you're presupposing a situation that does not exist.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Councillor LeBlanc.
So this goes for everything else, like any other association that would buy a building and it would go under the non-for-profit or whatever. It would be the same thing. This one's a little puzzling. As, you know, I understand the concept of it. If they buy the building, they're not using it, they're renting it out, and it's quite clear. Their money is going to the Carlton Industries, so therefore it's being used for the appropriate people that need it. But then we have a business that's being run that's not by other people that aren't covering, that aren't under any taxes whatsoever.
Excuse me.
And I guess that can happen at different places as well. Okay, I've got it. I guess, yeah. Maybe it should be studied even more.
Sorry, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you so much, sir. So I've got this straight, then if this is the property we're talking about, this number that's listed property here, number, it's an investment property. As simple as that for Carlton Road Industries. There's nothing that they're using. They basically bought this property to rent it out. It's an investment property.
To make money to use for their...
Yes,
Yeah,
in
but-
the eventual site, yeah.
No, that's
Okay.
not how it started. I'll let them talk.
Okay, Councillor Bartow, followed by Councillor Collins.
This is related to property tax only, or what about business occupancy taxes? Is it under the same umbrella? Are they, if they're exempt from one, will they be exempt from everything? And if so, then I have problems.
Do we still have business occupancy taxes?
No.
They were done away with decades ago.
Are you sure?
Business occupancy taxes.
Just ask the question, because it seems to me that
There's no such...
those businesses pay a different tax.
They pay a different tax rate. But the business occupancy tax used to be prevalent throughout the province, and it just got, done away with.
Whoever owns
Property.
But there's, to me, the question was if that's, a portion of that's related to the business,
A portion of what?
the tax.
What tax?
Tax that they pay for. They're paying taxes.
Which business are you talking about now? Carlton Road Industries?
The restaurant.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're
I want to make sure.
adding it to the list that they don't pay taxes.
Yeah,
It's not the restaurant.
but that's for the property.
Okay, just hold on, please. We were told that that number was for the restaurant. Councillor Enzo says it's not for the restaurant.
Unless that restaurant, sir, is on 3.8 acres.
The wrong PID.
I'm assuming if that PID number is for their actual facility
In behind.
in behind.
The old Beaver Fruit Co-op, maybe.
Correct. Because that would make sense for 3.8 acres.
All for that, I figured.
Yeah. Because they're saying 347 Main Street in their application. And when I looked that address up, under that PID, it's 3.8 acres. There's no way that that restaurant, it's not even a quarter acre.
The restaurant's on Main Street too, it wouldn't be combined?
No.
No,
It's not
there's
connected?
no-
Okay, just checking.
Not that I'm aware of, there's no way.
So
Because I
that's
know
for the main
they don't-
product, I'm fine with that.
So it
Yeah,
might be separate PID.
they are from what it looks like on Newfoundland.
We're tired of this.
CAO, do you have a suggestion?
So, and I would like our expert staff to see if this idea holds water. There doesn't seem to be concern about the group in general, it's one property. Could we leave this property alone for now, even if it meant making a decision later and manually adjusting its tax bill?
Well, it won't get taken up. We have to do manual adjustment. We have to do manual.
Yes. But it's one property and we can communicate with the property owner to tell them it's being looked at.
So,
And definitely clarify the PID for the restaurant.
Yes.
But all of Carlton Road Industries properties are exempted.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But each property receives its own tax
Yes.
bill nevertheless, so we could leave this one in question at a normal tax rate and decide later if it needs to be
Yes.
adjusted or get a reduction, yes.
Councillor Connell?
My problem and my issue is that there's other businesses in Lawrencetown that pay property taxes. They have signed a 2-year lease agreement for sale. They're not holding that property for an investment. They've already made their arrangements to divest of that property because they tried a restaurant and it failed, and they closed it down. Individuals are supposed to have a 2-year purchase agreement to purchase it after 2 years. To me, that's not for profit. And why should a restaurant down the road, 100 feet, have to pay property tax when the one up the road doesn't have to pay property tax?
Okay, why don't we have an amendment to this, deleting the words Carlton Road Industries Association AAN 011277705.
I'd make that amendment.
Councillor Gunn and Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on the amendment. All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. We will now vote on the motion as amended. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes. Boy,
Thank you. And the CAO will look into that Carlton Road Industries. Thank you. Well done. All right, 6.17, page 114. Councillor Longmire, please.
I recommend that municipal council approve the issuing of the reimbursement of costs associated with facilities that activated as comfort centers during Hurricane Dorian in September 2019. $4,230.43 from the current 2022-23 budget.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Gunn. Discussion. Councillor Inslow.
So I just really only have one question. So from reading the report, I can understand why we're doing it, but how come this wasn't submitted when it was supposed to be to the province and now it's coming out of the county budget and not the free money? I'm just curious about that.
Simply put, it was errors by the municipality and missing deadlines with the province back in 2019 during the event. And I'd like to add to that answer, we have certainly refined our processes. For instance, when we were preparing for Fiona, we were ready. Finance had set up separate cost centers. Everything needed to track everything was communicated to everyone. Luckily, Fiona missed us for the most part, but we simply did not realize the scope of what we would need to be able to track and report for the province. So we weren't ready to do it right.
So this is 100% on us. We got everything from them.
Yes, this was us either missing deadlines or not having sufficient data to do the right thing with the province.
Perfect, thank you for it.
Councillor Sherry.
So it says it's coming out of the current budget, 22-23. Is it coming out of the operational reserves? It doesn't say, it's just saying out of the budget.
It's coming out of the operating remo budget.
Okay. Operating remo budget. Okay, it just didn't say that, so I was just wondering. Thank you.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. So why did it take from 2019 to 2023 March for us to pay that bill, or for us to be...
That question's been answered.
Oh, was it?
It's errors on the part of...
Oh, I heard that. Why would it take 4 years for errors?
Do you mean for us to bring this to you now? Well,
Yes.
when I heard about it, I said, let's deal with it. But I can invite Ms. Campbell to answer. I believe we were trying to follow up further and see if we could appeal to the province, but can you clarify?
We did not get a definitive turned down being provided those funds until within the past 6 months.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Item 6.18, page 116. Deputy Warden, please.
I move the municipal council amend A-1.2.3 warden and deputy warden policy as revised and circulated 7-day notice.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Councillor Gunn. Before, I'd like to point out down the bottom of the page, those words that are being deleted, in part or in full, due to a suggestion of mine to clear up the matter as to the status of the warden. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you so much. I'm fine with what they're proposing for the removing the word removal and the rest of it. But what this policy needs is a new section 1 and so on down the line. This policy should have a piece added onto the front of it at the start of it that says, after the 10-day period for appeal after the election, the new council will be sworn into office after the 10-day of appeal. We ran into this problem a few years ago, and it cost us a whole lot of money. And if we set it in policy that the policy, our policy, Annapolis County's policy, should say that after the 10-day appeal period after an election, the clerk will call the new council to order, and then this policy will be followed along.
Clerk, please.
That's part of the Municipal Elections Act.
Yeah.
Well, okay. But you see, the part of what...
Hold it.
In the past, the issue was under the direction of the solicitor.
But, okay, and it was also under the direction of the CAO. Our solicitor was obviously wrong. Our CAO was wrong, and they wouldn't take any advice at the time. So I'm saying, to avoid all that, any new CAOs or solicitors that we might be having, if we set it in the policy, our policy, which can be a little bit different from the Elections Act and the rest of it, we set it by policy. In our policy, when we elect the warden and the deputy warden, there should be a part of this that's followed before even that comes to light. As we know, the clerk is under direction of the CAO. And if the CAO says that, we can have a meeting, then the clerk works for the CAO. We need to cover this by policy so that we don't run into it in years ahead. Thank you.
If I just may clarify, the clerk works under current legislation.
Okay.
And the clerk is protected by solicitor opinion and sometimes does not have a choice in the matter.
That's right.
But we are governed by legislation. It's in the legislation.
We are governed by legislation, I agree, but I believe that we can protect ourselves in this matter by putting a piece in our policy. It's our policy, how things should be ran. Thank you.
So are you proposing an amendment to the recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Or
I'm proposing an amendment to the policy, that the policy have this piece included at the start of it, so that everybody is on track, that we're running by policy. I know the Elections Act may have something written in it, but it wasn't followed, if that's the case. And somebody who wasn't...
One time, yes.
It wasn't followed.
That's right.
Refer it back to staff.
Pardon me? Refer it back to staff? Okay, well, I would make the motion to refer that back, this item back to the staff and have that part included in it.
Thank you. Seconder? And I think that's probably good.
You pointed at someone. Who was it?
Councillor Longmire. That's really good. But nothing in this world is 100. Pardon me?
I need clarity on what you actually want staff to do. Refer it back to staff to include clarity on what?
On the first piece from your Elections Act, after the 10-day period, I want a piece after the 10-day period for appeal, that the new elected council will be convened and sworn into office. That should be the first part of this policy.
And how long after that 10-day period?
10 days, after the 10-day period, 10 days, period. Because if we say, oh, well, it's going to be 2 weeks.
No, sorry. But after the 10-day period, that means the council meets at day 11 or at the next regularly scheduled meeting?
No, day 11.
Well, if it falls on a Saturday or something.
Well, I mean, the next convenient day. The next day of business.
Quiet, please. One person at a time. Clerk.
I believe that's in your council procedures policy about your inaugural meeting. It's the first item in your council procedures policy.
But now the problem we run into is we can have, as what's happened in the past, we're all elected out, we meet, and we're gonna have a meeting in 14 days' time. Oh, well, the next council's not for a week after that, or committee of the whole. We'll vote, we'll swear the new council in there. The old council has no business at that point, after that appeal time, to be making any commitments of the municipality. We should be covered in our policy, which votes the warden, the deputy warden in, that this will happen after the next business day, after the 10-day period.
Deputy Warden and Councillor Bartow and Councillor LeBlanc.
This is exactly what is in our council procedure policy. I know because I did a lot of research at the time, and it was my motion that put it in there. Sorry. So, I mean, you can put it in only one place, but it is no more effective than that. You always have a problem with a fundamental weakness of a democracy is that it is very stable when people follow the rules. However, they become very weak once somebody decides to not follow the rules. So putting in 400,000 rules that all say more or less the same thing does not make a democracy more robust. It lends to bureaucracy and not getting anything done. Because if you want to ignore the rules, especially as elected officials, we all know that there's not, the only people we report to are our residents. There's nobody that comes along and perhaps our standards. We know that from this last general election. I know I spent hours on the phone with municipal affairs and other provincial bodies about this meeting that we're now having issues with, and spent thousands of dollars taking to court. They won't do anything. They told me that. They said, you do it when you're sworn in. So, as strongly as I agree with Councillor Gunn right now, I don't know that this is the right policy for it, and it's already been done.
Did you have something, Kurt?
Item 1 in your 1.2.0 council committees and council meetings policy says, inaugural meeting. The inaugural meeting of council shall take place on the first business day following the 10-day appeal period of a municipal election. The clerk shall preside as chair of the meeting until such time as the warden is elected.
Perfect. Now, question is, if I may say, the question being, will it be followed? Because it's
No, sir.
sorry, it's
No,
an
no, excuse
acts
me.
are all a matter of interpretation.
Excuse me, that's an entirely different question. I understood you wanted certain information included in this policy.
That's exactly right,
It was
sir.
pointed out that the information is included in the policy just quoted by the clerk. Do we need to have the same information in two policies?
How can it hurt?
Well, why don't we have it in three policies?
Well, okay.
Why don't we have it in the one dealing with...
Policy's only as good as if it's against the followed, sir.
And having it in two places doesn't mean it's any more liable to be followed. Councillor Bartow, followed by Councillor Longmire, followed by Councillor...
Thank you. I like to say I'm a fan of not duplicating. If something's duplicated, it can not match. If what's duplicated from is amended, like say the MGA or the Municipal Elections Act, it might not be updated in our policy. So if we simply set and add to it anything that's pertinent, reference those items, then we're forced to go and look at those. We're not going to have to retype and replace, copy it over from another legislation into our policy. If we reference that MGA item or the elections item in our policy, then that covers it. If that's our policy, that means anybody reading that policy has to follow it and look at those references. And we don't duplicate it because there's a chance of error or chance that if things change in the MGA, that is pertinent, that we aren't up to date on if we reference those items. every time we have another policy, if it's certain somewhere else in our policies, reference it. Don't copy it, reference it. And then you're covered more succinctly, more currently, if the chances of error are taken out of the equation. So anytime we're doing a policy, if there's pertinent information that's listed somewhere else that we need to go by, that is what's been discussed, that is like following the 10 days after, that's in the MG, that's in the Elections Act. If we have other policy, I'll give the, but if this is in tune with that, we know that, we just reference that other policy. We don't copy, that's just a chance for problems. Then I think that would cover us. If we, in standard, the way we do things, we reference, we don't copy.
Thank you. You've now said that 3 times, and I think it's impressed on our minds.
Good, I got my point across.
Could the clerk read the motion that's on the floor, please?
To refer the matter back, I guess it's the policy, to refer the policy back to staff to include clarity regarding following the 10-day appeal period that the new council will be convened and sworn into office.
Now, bearing in mind that it has been quoted to us, that the gist of that information is in another policy, could we proceed to a vote, please? All those in favor?
I did have my hand up.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I'm asking if we could
Okay.
proceed to a
All right.
vote. You're saying no, so go ahead.
Sure, thank you. And I just wanted to say that I didn't want to repeat what Councillor Bardo has already said,
However,
but that is exactly how I feel, so thank you.
thank you. Can we now proceed with the vote?
I did, but I'll go with the vote.
We just, thank you, I'm well aware of All right, all those in favor of the motion that was just read, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against? Motion is carried, which means, Councillor Berto, you're not going to get your thrice suggested solution.
Well, the motion was to send it back.
Send it back to staff.
To staff.
Yeah.
So they can
To include, anyway, good.
consider that.
Motion passed.
Right?
Thank you.
Don't throw it, please.
I'm on your side.
Well, there, I know that one was quick.
Hold on. We haven't done this.
We haven't done it?
We haven't done this.
What is?
This motion.
We did.
Yes, we did.
That's what we just did.
We canceled.
We amended it.
Referred it.
No, you
Referred
referred the policy back to staff.
We didn't amend
Okay,
it.
Wasn't an amendment.
all right, thank you.
We would be done.
Scared?
Item 6.19. Deputy Warden, please.
I move that municipal council appoint Connor McQuarrie as the development officer for the municipality of the county of Annapolis to administer the municipality's land use bylaws and subdivision bylaw.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Hudson. Discussion. Councillor Enslow.
I just,
No. You're not going down to tell me what line you're going to.
well, just under the discussion, we're saying grants her.
Yes, me too.
I knew you were going to.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
I was going to say
It's a
same
clerk
thing.
error.
This
Yeah,
one.
we noticed it too.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, is this a woman?
No,
No.
that's the problem.
Well, I don't know if we use
Any
a-
further discussion?
We were used to it.
No.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
We refer to people by their sex.
CAO. You said you were going to do it.
Well, do you know what, Council, you've spent so much time this week. I think in the interest of time, I can delay the things I was going to do or send it to you by email. I think I'll respect your time and let us move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.1, Trans-County Transportation Society Report. Councillor Prout, please.
It's currently on page 120.
Any comments? Thank you. Item 7.2, Position Recruitment and Retention Committee Recommendation. Councillor Longmire.
I recommend that Municipal Council, in accordance with AM-1.4.9.1 Medical Recruitment Financial Assistance Program Policy, approve a payment of $10,000 to the Soldier Memorial Hospital Foundation for the purpose of providing a grant to Dr. Ama Asidou.
Second.
Thank you. Second, Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion. Councillor Connor.
Would it be a way just to ask for information to be sent back to us that they've received it?
Councillor Sherry.
I can arrange that.
A thank you letter goes a long way. If they're not going to be thankful for it, then maybe we can drop the policy.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Is Councillor Connell referring to the doctor sending a reply or the Soldiers Memorial?
The foundation. It's going to the foundation.
Well, I know it's going, but I didn't know who he meant. Because didn't we get a reply? I'll leave it to Councillor Longmire.
I would think there'd be two replies.
Right. We received the reply that they received.
I'll
it.
do that.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councillor Longmire.
I recommend that Municipal Council, in accordance with AM-1.4.9.1 Medical Recruitment Financial Assistance Program Policy, approve a payment of $10,000 to the Soldiers Memorial Hospital Foundation for the purpose of providing a grant to Dr. Omereed. I say and.
Second. Councillor Hudson, thank you. Discussion. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Bartow.
Just following through on the confirmation, and it was kind of alluded to that we did get confirmation, but some follow-up information that I had seen, soldiers didn't confirm that. They were confirming second payment of the other amounts that we were on that 5-year, $10,000 a year item. So they did not respond to what was requested. It was something different.
Sorry, can you link it, please, to this motion? I don't understand.
Previous $10,000.
You mean the first motion, or?
Well, where it was
Previous.
talked about previous, I'll just bring that up again. And it was mentioned that we did have confirmation, but we don't, to my knowledge.
Councillor LeBlanc?
We did receive confirmation of the two $10,000 grants we provide. One of the 5 years that we committed to,
Yes.
and the $10,000 that went for the first doctor.
Yes.
I think specifically what the ask is to make sure that the Soldiers Memorial Association sends us a letter stating that the money from our grant is specifically been given to the doctor. I think that's where Councillor Bartow is going.
Councillor Morgan?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Because the other one was not.
Further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion carried. 7.3, nominating committee recommendations. Councillor LeBlanc.
Okay. I move that Municipal Council appoint Alain Cotreau as a citizen member of the Granville Ferry Source Water Protection Advisory Committee, satisfying Section 28F of the policy for a 2-year term ending November 30th, 2024.
Second.
Councillor Bartow. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Police Advisory Board recommendations. Councillor Prout.
I believe I'll defer number 1 to my colleague.
Okay,
I move that municipal council direct staff to provide speed collection data to the RCMP and Annapolis detachments for their use and follow-up action, and that this data be made available to the Police Advisory Board.
thank you. Second, Councillor Longmire. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes. Sorry, just a second.
I have a 5-second time limit.
Are we potentially releasing data to a board and making it public?
No.
Or open to FOIPOC? I have no idea, I'm just...
Councillor Gunn?
Thank you so much. I believe these machines, like we bought these radar signs that tells us the speed limits that we'd be in from, they only collect vehicles as in instances. They don't collect data. They don't pick the data up on the vehicle, what the license plate or take or something like that. And
Yes.
and that's all they do. They don't. There's no personal information being released.
Yeah, that's correct. They track a speed and a date and a time. No license plate, no personal data.
I understand personal data. It was personally related to me here that at one point in time, a resident of a community stood in the middle of the road with a sledgehammer and threatened vehicles that were speeding. We're now talking about giving data about the time a vehicle goes by and the velocity it goes by at. So if you're talking, there's been concerns expressed at council about vigilantism. Are we releasing data to the public that could be used by a vigilante to target speeders? Data release is sorry, that was a long pause. It is very difficult to predict how data will be used once it is in the open. That is my concern here, because the data we are talking about from these signs is of a very high resolution, so to speak. Although it's not personal data, it is data that can be rapidly translated into personal data. If you got somebody speeding by every day at 4:52, flying down by the road, and I can see who that is.
Okay, that's the hardest question I've ever been answered in 6 months.
May I intervene, maybe, to help out?
Certainly, yeah, Council, you could certainly characterize how it was discussed at the last police board meeting as well.
Well, first of all, the first set of data was brought here to council for everybody to see. They knew everything that went on. It was open to the public as well. The reason behind this particular motion is so that it is given to the RCMP so they can better know the times that these particular speeding violations are occurring. It helps them, us helping them to try to solve a problem over in Granville Fair. So providing the information to them, I think, should be a bonus, not a negative. And it comes to the Police Advisory Board because part of that is discussing what police are looking to do and what we would like them to look at, which we'll look into the second motion. So I don't know if that's clarifying anything. And usually a lot of this from the RCMP or the Police Advisory Board, a lot cannot be brought to council because of privacy issues and a lot of what you said. So I don't know if I helped or didn't help. But you have to be careful with the data you collect.
I should probably try and answer. So it's very... The intent in sharing general and high-level information with the police is to prove that there is speeding, to help them formulate plans to support public safety. The information, yes, the information will include peak times when speeding is most likely. We can only ask the public to be patient and respect and support the fact that we're collecting this data so that the RCMP can make plans to help public safety. I want to be careful though. It's almost impossible for me or any of us to be able to comment on it. Is some person going to go out there and do the wrong thing and do something inappropriate? I would just urge people, I would want to use this opportunity to just urge people and ask, realize we're doing something big and very new that is intended to help this problem.
Councillor Longmire, please.
Thank you. I actually had the very same concern as Deputy Warden has raised, because yes, we're wanting to do something great and we want to solve this, this traffic, the speeding and unsafe. But at the same time, if the information, and we use the words, we are collecting, and if we're collecting, then if that's in our hands somewhere in some database, regardless of the RCMP using it to help them decide on how they manage it, that information can be FOIA-popped. And particulars about it, just like a Deputy Warden has said, if someone is typically always going by at 4:30 and community knows that, it becomes a concern, because just like Citizen Watch, there are many citizens who don't feel confident to report on things of that nature in their communities because they know that people are watching and the target could be then on them. So it is just concerning on how that data and who could and can get access to it and then use it in another fashion.
Thank you. Councillor Connell.
I was always on the understanding that the Police Advisory Board's an open meeting to the public.
It is.
Yes.
So what your statement was that there's some things discussed that couldn't come to this council.
Well, there's some things you can go into, in camera for as a discussion according to the act. So I'm not talking specifically about the police or the data collection, because that's being done by us. That is being given to that can be provided to the RCMP.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Campbell, you had your hand up. You want to contribute?
I would not exempt the information if a FOIA request came in. And that's because it would not pass the harms test. The harms test says that it has to be something beyond it's possible for it to happen. It is almost imminent and extremely likely that it would happen in order for me to exempt it. I do not believe that providing statistical information creates a likelihood that it would happen. A possibility, yes, but that would not be a reason for withholding it.
Councillor Hudson?
Yes, I guess I would totally agree with what Ms. Campbell just said. I believe we would really be amiss if we had information regarding speeding, that we don't provide to the RCMP, right? Now, whether that data be made available to the police advisory boards, that's another question. And perhaps that recommendation should be amended to remove that part of the recommendation. But I think, that we have a responsibility, and again, repeating, we would be remiss not to provide information. This is an important thing in the county, and, and I think it's something that we should address.
All right.
Right here.
Councillor Gunn?
Right here, don't forget me. Thank you so much. Granville, and I don't want to just... Granville Ferry, I don't want to just pick it. I think we should send the information to the RCMP. I'm going to leave it there, because I know next week we're going to have a whole different talk about Granville Ferry. And I'll save my comments for then. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden?
So, it's not that I'm against any data. I just thought we should take a moment to pause and think about data. Large data sets are, they're not just aligned. You can pull out things. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
No, slower.
Motion carried.
I move that municipal council provide the following to the RCMP Annapolis attachment as the municipality's priorities for inclusion in their annual performance plan for the 2023-24 fiscal year. 1, data-led traffic enforcement. 2, property crimes. And 3, comprehensive education.
Second. Councillor Gunn? Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Sewer rate in Lawrencetown.
New business. Councillor Sherry.
I was just inquiring on the sewer rate that hasn't been set yet for the new fiscal year. Just wondering if you could give me an idea when that's going to take place.
Okay, so I'd like to involve our manager of finance to talk about that.
So the sewer rate is delayed a little bit because we had to adjust the bylaw in February. And our director of operations is looking at the rate structures now. So as part of this budget process, we are reviewing all of the area rates and intend on bringing that with the budget to present to council, including all of our calculations, our assumptions, our estimates, and all of that for council's review. So I believe the latest we can approve the sewer bylaw, or the sewer rate, sorry, is in April.
Okay.
So that would be coming either in April or it would come as part of the budget.
Okay. I do know that the bills usually are received in April by the residents, so they're going to be delayed getting their bill. Is that what you're saying?
That is a good question. The April was given to me by the revenue side of finance, but I will confirm that. I believe we are a little bit behind in billing just due to staffing issues anyway. There's been a lot of coverage on the front counter from our utility biller, so.
Because they usually look for that bill in April because they get their other one in June, so they try to get this payment made in April because they have their regular tax bill in June. So that, I've had a couple questions from residents, so I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Sorry, the April bill is actually to March 31st, so it's on the prior year's rate. So when we change the rate, that is actually for the June bill, and that's why April is our deadline for getting that ready.
For the sewer rates, bill goes out in April though.
That's right, so that bill though covers up to March 31st and is billed at the 22.
So they're going to go out on time is what
So
you're
they
saying?
will go out on time, that's right. The new rate will be for the June bill.
Okay, it's just a little confusing because we usually set them in February each year, and here it is March and we haven't set it yet. So I just need clarity on that. Okay, I appreciate that.
We're looking at the calculation methods.
Thank you.
And thank you. And now Lawrencetown.
The motion?
Did you have that?
I'm good.
If I can just give you this.
Fred's got it.
I move. Excuse me. Here, just a second. I've got material to talk about, not for the motion. I move that we give Lawrencetown $30,200 in support of their solar power management system.
From the 20, so that if you mirror it to the one you made the other day,
Great.
it might read something like that municipal council approved the release of $30,200 of CCBF funds to the village of Lawrencetown from the 23-24 budget.
That's it.
That's it.
For
Second.
solar energy management.
You didn't specify them before, what that one was from last year's budget, and this would be for this year's budget. Just for them to look the same when they come.
I'm happy with that.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Sherry.
So,
Just, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to give you some background on this. Had a pretty good conversation with them about it. They provided this nice list of components and a breakdown on how much they plan to do, how much energy they plan to generate, which long run works out to about $40,000 over 20 years. Now, in the first section, they talk about they talk about saving money and reducing the reliance on an artificial power grid. Now, what they don't talk about is all the other projects that Lawrencetown does to keep their community sustainable. Almost every facility they have around there, which is quite numerous because they have the internet program and all kinds of, and their various sewer systems and water systems, are all solar panel supported. They have solar panels and battery backups. So that when the power goes down in Lawrencetown, which happens incredibly regularly, much more so, I shouldn't say perceptively, more so than it does in other places in the county, the system keeps functioning. So that is also part of their project with this library building, because the library building was donated to them in large part by a doctor whose name I can't remember, to build this building. And over the years, they have removed the oil furnace and put in a heat pump and electric backup on that, and a couple other things to support this gift they were given and keep it going. And this is just the latest issue because they have had problems in the past with long power outages in Lawrencetown, keeping that building warm. They've got quite cool, the heat pump's only been in for a year, and it got fairly cool during one of our 48-hour power outages. So there's, on a dollars and cents level, solar panels are an okay investment. When you factor in all the intangibles, carbon footprint reductions, or all these sort of community things that they are very interested in, to me it is an excellent project.
Can you give me the dollar figure again, please?
$30,200.
Did you have something?
Could I hear the motion again? Just make my comment.
Municipal Council approved the release of $30,200 of Canadian Community Building Funds to the Village of Lawrencetown from the 2023-24 budget.
Oh, okay. I guess my confusion here, are we not just adding or recommending an addition to the capital budget?
Yeah.
It's basically why not?
Okay, Deputy Warden followed by Councillor Connell, followed by Councillor Gunn.
So personally, I don't see this as an addition to the capital budget because it's not our project. It should be a separate motion to council. Our capital budget is our project.
Yeah.
This is funding we're providing to an external organization for their project.
But isn't the procedure to be followed, isn't Lawrencetown to provide us with a list of their capital projects for the coming year? And we approve those as part of our capital budget?
If they're asking. If they're asking. Gas tax.
Well, yeah, it's gas tax, yeah.
Okay, CAO.
Well, it comes out of CCBF, which we talk about in the capital budget, but for the fine tuning on this, may I invite our manager of finance to comment on the best practice?
Yeah, sure. It can honestly go either way. For reporting purposes, it isn't our capital project, so when we do report to the ministry and other bodies like that, we would remove their project from our project because it was not our capital investment. So, I mean, it can be approved as part of the process. We can present it in a number of different ways. A separate motion is very clean and it works as well. But
Thank you. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, I really like the way Lawrencetown operates. I do. I know they run it, they're all bits of problems here and there, which a lot of municipalities and organizations have had through the years with, getting operations done. But I don't think, Lawrencetown had to declare a climate emergency, which we did years ago, to have enough sense to lower their carbon footprint. I gotta hand it to them. But they're looking to scratch every nickel in savings they can and pass it along to their citizens. I'm telling you, we could use a little bit of that. Thank you.
Councillor Paul.
I think that's the Dr. Frank Morse Library. He lived there his whole life, and he donated quite a bit of funds to make sure that library stayed sustainable. The solar panels is, I must say, the village of Lawrencetown has used them in a lot of different situations. And we see the major solar project that COGS did, the community college in Lawrencetown, on their front lawn. And it's very, I don't know if I'd call it amazing, but it's very amazing that students from COGS in the summertime, if you were to drive through the village of Lawrencetown, are sitting on the benches outside the library at 12 o'clock at night using their internet. So if they can keep that going, no matter what the situation is, I think it's a big benefit for that community.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Any other business? Councillor Connell.
I've been looking through my book there because I didn't know if we canceled it or the Wren, meeting with the Wren.
Next week. So we've got some workshops next week. So in addition to the council on Tuesday, you're here all day on Wednesday for the motions workshop in the morning and then a presentation from the Wren in the afternoon.
The issue I'm having is that we have a new CAO.
We ran these ideas by him to see if he has any questions or concerns, and he was quite happy that these go forward.
That was my concern, is that we're having workshops or meetings prior to him being involved. So
Yeah, they've all been.
So you're saying that's next Wednesday?
That's on Wednesday.
On...
That's the 22nd.
Oh, I got Jason Hall.
Yes, he's in the morning.
In the morning.
And the afternoon of the 21st is another workshop.
Yes. Yeah. Property value.
So on the 22nd, you'll probably be here till about 4:30. So.
Anything else? I'd just like to point out to anybody who's watching that if you watched all this meeting today, you saw a lot of good things. And one of the reasons we discuss items in detail from time to time is so that we can understand and so that we can take into account the comments of our colleagues when we make our decision on how to vote. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much.